Good morning, everyone. Here we are. Here we are again. 16th of July, 2026, Thursday morning. The monthly question time with Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, who, according to recent polls, is scheduled for his fourth term in service. Can you believe that? Anyway, just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining last night's stream. We had a great laugh. But unfortunately, we're out. We're out of the World Cup. But we're just waiting for them to start now. They'll be starting in the next few minutes, I hope. So please bear with me. Chat's open to subscribers. I want to come and say hello. And I'm just going to grab a coffee quickly. All right, coffee acquired. Good morning, Shaz. Hope you're well, love. Good to see you, as always. A few minutes away from starting now. Morning, Diane. How are you, love? Welcome along. This will be quite a long one, I believe. I'm on my third. I'm on my third coffee so far. Yeah, much needed. So yeah, this will be quite a long one. So get your snacks, get your coffee, get your tea, get your cigarettes and everything else. And we're going to go over now. Thank you all for joining. Make sure you like and subscribe, please. Right, let's head over. There's no audio on at the moment. I'll turn the volume up a bit so everyone can hear. And welcome along. Here we go. So yeah, we will be starting very, very shortly. We're just waiting for them to get things sorted out. Hopefully we can get some viral clips again from this. And can't wait for Susan Hall to unleash on him.
The London Assembly is the voice of London, composed of 25 members elected at the same time as the Mayor in order to hold him to account, scrutinise his policies and investigate matters of importance to Londoners. Can I welcome members, officers and the public here in the gallery and watching on the webcast. This is a Mayor's question time meeting of the Assembly, which means that all members are invited to attend and ask questions of the Mayor. In case of emergency and any need to exit the building, guests seated in the public gallery should follow security staff and Assembly members should follow the meeting clerk. Members are reminded that any electronic devices not be placed in front of microphones, which must be turned on to speak and turned off once finished. Can I now ask the clerk to confirm any apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies for absence today from Assembly Member Cooper, Assembly Member Desai and Assembly Member Moema.
Thank you. At our last meeting, we questioned the Deputy Mayor for Culture and Creative Industries. Since then, the Housing Committee asked how the Mayor and the GLA are working to combat the increased number of empty homes in London. The Affordable Housing Monitor for 2026-27 was also published, outlining the current picture of housing delivery and needs. The GLA Oversight Committee asked about the progress of the Disability Action Plan and questioned London's Deputy Mayor for Children and Families about her priorities and what London's families can expect. The Environment Committee sent a letter to the Mayor on access to green spaces. The Planning and Regeneration Committee explored how upwards extensions might help reduce London's housing need. The committee also published its report on new towns and how they should be delivered in line with infrastructure. The Budget and Performance Committee scrutinised the delivery of housing and GLAP and progress on the repayment of £300 million loan from the GLA. The committee also wrote to the Mayor calling on him to secure sustained investment to support the delivery of productivity improvements across policing. This week, the Transport Committee questioned TfL about autonomous passenger vehicles. The Police and Crime Committee spoke to the Met as part of its investigations into grooming gangs in London. And the Environment Committee discussed fly tipping in the capital. Finally, as chair, I represented the Assembly and indeed all London local government at a wreath-laying ceremony at the 7th of July memorial, remembering the victims of that devastating bombing. Now, can I welcome to the public gallery students from the Emily Thornberry Summer School, who I've been holder there. You can wave, yes, very good. It's easier target when you wave, so. And we'll be having other guests coming in and I will stop the meeting to welcome them. Can I ask the Assembly to note the interests set out at item 2? And do Assembly members have any other disclosable pecuniary interests which relate to the items on the agenda for today's meeting? Or any other relevant interests, including any declarations in relation to gifts and hospitality which are not reflected on the authority's register of gifts and hospitality? Noted. Oh, Yeah, you've always got to pause there so people can think, you know. Can I ask the Assembly to confirm the minutes of the London Assembly meeting held on the 12th of June 2026 to be signed by me as a correct record? And can I ask the Assembly to formally receive the Mayor's report covering the period of the 30th of May through to the 2nd of July 2026? The Mayor will now provide an oral update of up to 5 minutes in length on matters occurring since the publication of his report. Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. I know many of us are nursing heartbreak after the game last night, so I won't talk about that. I had a whole opening ready to go if results had been different. Chair, today I'm publishing the new draft London plan. This is a bold blueprint for how we can deliver good growth, shape our city's development in the years ahead and ensure we continue to build a fairer, greener, more prosperous London for everyone. The aim is to make best possible use of City Hall's planning powers to achieve two key objectives. One, to build as many affordable homes for Londoners as possible, and two, to deliver economic growth that benefits people across our city. This means supporting growth, jobs and the industries that will be crucial to London's future success, like AI and life sciences. Crucially, I'm determined to do all this while continuing to meet my ambitious climate commitments, improving our environment and improving access to green spaces. Since becoming mayor, I've made affordable housing a top priority, and I'm proud of what we've delivered so far. We're not only building more new council homes than at any time since the 1970s, but we completed more new homes prior to the pandemic than at any time since the 1930s. However, there's now a perfect storm facing house building across the country. This is due to a combination of high interest rates, the rising cost of construction materials, the legacy of the pandemic, a shortage of skilled workers, the wars in Ukraine and Iran, and the lasting impact of Brexit. But I'm optimistic that we can get London building again in high numbers, and this plan sets out how we can meet the challenges we face, build as many good quality affordable homes as possible, and boost our economy for the benefit of everyone. London is the greatest city in the world, and its success has always depended on how well we have planned for growth and on the choices we make about the kind of city we want to be. This new draft London plan sets out the right strategic framework to guide and shape our city for many years to come, cultivating an economy that's fit for the future and a city where no one is left behind. Chair, I've been asked for 3 separate requests for oral updates. 2 relate to the World Cup. The first from Assemblymember Hall on the disorder in the aftermath of the France versus Morocco match, and the second from Assemblymember Ahmed in preparations for the World Cup final, which has now been withdrawn for obvious reasons. I've also got an oral update request from Assemblymember Best, which I'll come to shortly. In response to Assemblymember Hall's request, it's worth saying that the majority of fans from all nations have come together in London to celebrate the World Cup peacefully. It was therefore deeply disappointing to see the violent scenes and reckless actions of a small minority which put others at risk following the France versus Morocco match. There's absolutely no place for disorder like that on our streets, which endangered officers and members of the public. I'd like to thank the police for their response to this incident. Unfortunately, one officer was injured and had to be taken to hospital. He's now been released from hospital. So far, 4 arrests have been made, and officers are reviewing CCTV footage to identify others involved in criminality. I fully support the Met to take the appropriate action to bring to justice those responsible for violence and disorder on London's streets. And Chair, so the second request that I'm dealing with is from Assemblymember Best. Good morning. On the 12th of July, London Fire Brigade responded to a significant fire in Walthamstow, deploying 25 fire engines and 125 firefighters. Unfortunately, the fire destroyed one house, which has now been demolished, damaged multiple gardens and spread to the railway embankment, meaning trains on that line were suspended. Fortunately, no injuries were reported. I want to thank the firefighters who worked in challenging conditions to bring the fire under control and prevent further spread. The LFB worked closely with TfL and British Transport Police to support passengers on affected trains, while 2 rest centres were established with local authority partners for evacuated residents. London Fire Brigade continued to engage with affected residents through meetings, there's another one today, and regular updates. Unfortunately, this awful fire has meant that the Weaver line had to close, although TfL is running a limited shuttle service along some sections of the line. Work continues to fully reopen the line and return to full service. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody? Assembly Member Hall, please.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, obviously I'm following up on my question to you about the absolute mayhem in London after the France-Morocco match. Why on earth did it take you so long to actually comment on it, especially given that a police officer was injured?
Sorry, I'm not sure the member refers to commenting on it.
Your comment on, you tweet on everything. In fact, on that day, you'd tweeted about the tennis twice. You'd mentioned the fact that it was hot 5 times, that Tom Copley was doing a Photoshop with somebody. You'd done all of that. But on the streets of London, where we had absolute chaos with police officers, riot police there, objects being thrown at officers, roads closed, fireworks and flares being set off, no, it took till gone 4 o'clock in the afternoon before you commented on that. You are responsible for that. When the England fans do anything, you're out the traps immediately. But when other people are out there causing mayhem on our streets, we have to wait for a comment from the mayor. Why did you take so long before you actually commented on this?
Well, Chair, the member clearly spends more time on social media than I do. When there's major incidents in our city, I spend time speaking to those involved in the front line rather than communicating via Twitter and being obsessed by tweets. I'm happy to look into the speed at which a social media message went out. The key thing is to make sure that the police have the support they need, but also to make sure we're fully cognizant of all the facts before sometimes we prematurely comment in social media. We know that most recently from a tragic murder that's taken place in other parts of the country, the consequences of politicians commenting too soon. Oh, really? That's interesting. Because when Chris Carber was shot by the police, you were on that immediately. Immediately it was the police's fault. Immediately you commented. It's amazing, isn't it, what you do and don't comment on. The wonderful leader of the Conservative group in Westminster, Paul Swaddle, was immediately saying how bad this was and that we don't want this sort of behaviour on London streets. He's the leader of the Conservative leader of Westminster. But our mayor chose rather to talk about the tennis, the hot weather, pictures of Tom Copley. When our police officers had been injured, we'd had roads closed in the centre of London, and it was a big event, if you like, and it's something that we would have expected the mayor to comment on. Well, Chair, if the member is criticising the social media team that works incredibly hard all year round, I'm sure they'll reflect on the expertise the member provides on social media and their views on that. I think you should reflect on what you do and don't comment on. We've had enough of two-tier Starmer. And we want, if you're going to comment on some things, make sure you're constant with what you do comment on. I suspect had they been England fans, you'd have been on Twitter first thing in the morning condemning them. So perhaps think on that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Best, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your update and providing it at short notice. Can I just join you in extending my best wishes to all those that are dealing with the loss of their sheds, garden homes, and those people that unfortunately lost their entire home. Many people along the Weaver line are now concerned about the cause of that fire. I noticed there wasn't an update on that in your response. Could you please just make sure that any work that can be done to release something on that as soon as possible can be done, because there's a lot of people concerned at the moment.
Yeah, no, I thank the member for a question, the way she asked it as well. There is an investigation taking place. I've got an update which I'm reluctant to share because I've got only work in progress, and you'll appreciate the dangers in commenting when work in progress. The LFB are in their regular meetings with residents, letting them know what they can, because obviously there's things they can do to avoid, God forbid, another fire happening. The full investigation report will be completed shortly, and I'll ensure that the member sees it, but also the public sees what needs to happen, and the council and other partners, to avoid, God forbid, this happening again, because the forecast is another 2 weeks at least of really hot weather with no rain at all. So the concerns she's articulating are live.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else on the oral update? No. We now move to the questions on the priority order paper. Each group is allocated an amount of time to ask their questions that's proportionate to their size. The first question is titled Tube Noise from Assembly Member Baker.
Good morning. Thanks for the question. I recognise the impact that noise can have on people travelling on the London Underground and those residents who live in close proximity to it. And that's one of the reasons I'm grateful for the member being so assiduous in following up on this matter on a regular basis. The principal cause of track noise is rail corrugation, and TfL carries out regular grinding of the track to manage this. Given the negative impact this can have on users and residents, I've introduced a dedicated rail grinding budget, giving TfL access to £9 million in 25-26, up from £8.1 million in 24-25. This, alongside improved grinding efficiency, is allowing TfL to be more productive in tackling rail corrugation. There is, I should add, a significant backlog of works caused by the lack of funding from the previous government and the legacy of the pandemic. Nevertheless, and despite the uplift in TfL funding from this government, it remains the case that TfL resources are constrained. And that's why TfL uses a data-led approach to target their grinding efforts where they're most needed. In addition to rail grinding, TfL is continuing to investigate alternative solutions to manage tube noise. TfL is installing resilient base plates as part of their track renewal programme, which can help reduce vibration. TfL has also been trialling speed variation, whereby trains vary their speed on curves prone to specific types of corrugation. This has had some success on the Victoria line, and TfL is investigating the possibility of expanding this practice to other lines. TfL also looks to learn extensively from the practices of other metro network operators around the world. However, the London Underground is not only large, it's also far older than any other metro system in the world and has unique infrastructure challenges. And that's why TfL has my full support in its efforts to explore innovative tech solutions to solve this issue. One new piece of technology is an acoustic-focused rail grinding machine, which is due to be trialled in tunnels later this year. If successful, this could be included in TfL's grinding contract from late 27 and may assist track grinding in areas with more limited ventilation. I want to assure Londoners that I understand the significant impact that high levels of tube noise can have, and that's why I expect TfL to continue to address all noise complaints with the seriousness they deserve.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor, and I appreciate the genuine acknowledgement and concern you've shown to those affected by noise and vibration in their homes. It is the residential noise and vibration that I want to focus on. And I would really like to emphasise also the impact, living with noise and vibration of trains going under your house every few minutes in their homes, coming through walls, beds, floors, in some cases all night, and it can have a huge impact on sleep, and obviously that has a resulting impact for many on their mental health. And I think, to be honest, Londoners in general would be quite shocked if they knew in those homes where they are affected how bad it can be. And I would also like to acknowledge, and I'm sure all residents affected would as well, this is obviously a genuine and complex problem. No one expects this to be solved overnight. The solutions in each case are also very complex. But the feedback we get, and for those Assembly members I think who are dealing with us on a regular basis, is that TfL's approach isn't getting better, it's worsening. So I'd like to specifically say, so last month I wrote to Andy Lord direct. In that letter I asked for a significant improvement in the quality and quantity of data. I asked for specific data based on the residents' casework that we dealt with. So an improvement in the quality and quantity of data shared with Assembly members, and therefore that could be shared with the residents to monitor the issue, look at the measures being taken and specifics on complaints. So last week I received an email, not from Andy Lord, didn't get a letter back from Andy Lord, despite the fact we put a lot of effort into that letter and making sure it was really comprehensive. Just an email from TfL's Government Relations turning down the majority of the requests for data, and it contained the reassuring phrase: we're fully committed to tackling tube noise, but as you've said, resources remain constrained. And I have to say that catch-all phrase that anyone dealing with tube noise, it strikes horror into your heart, the data-led approach. Well, if it's all this data, I don't quite know why they can't just share it with us. But there's the contradiction. They say they're fully committed, but that resources are constrained. Now, from where I'm sitting, over the last 5 years I've been Assembly member, I don't feel that TfL are adequately allocating resources to this issue that genuinely is causing misery for a group of Londoners. You've said about the rail grinding budget, and that's good. I'll talk more about the data as well so we can see the impact of that. But can you commit again to looking at the overall allocation of resources they use to manage the issue of tube noise?
Chair, can I say, there's not a lot the member has said that I would disagree with in terms of how unacceptable it is, and I'm particularly sensitive to the misery this causes those residents affected by this. Just so she's aware, we've also been contacted in my office by Assembly Member Harani, Assembly Member Ahmed, Assembly Member Moema and Assembly Member Cooper, frustrated like you at the lack of proactiveness on the part of TfL. So a couple of things just to say by way of background, not as a rebuttal, there was progress being made in terms of dealing with this issue in the years leading up to the pandemic. I've got figures for the amount of money invested. That in itself is not a good criteria because you can become more efficient and spend less money. And then there was a massive plummeting of maintenance work in terms of pounds and pence spent, which I think is one of the reasons why things are and appear to be worse subsequently, because you've had the years of inaction and so forth, and we hope to improve that. The substantive point she makes is in relation to the lack of transparency. That is an easier problem to solve, I would say, than the issue of the technology to solve the problem. So I know as a consequence of my suggesting this, the TfL meet every few months with members of the Assembly. What I'll do is ensure that the information they provide is far, far, far more detailed than is currently received. In prepping for this over the weekend, I looked at what information they provide. I'll make sure they provide, in addition, information on what actually in real-time rail grinding activities taking place and over the next 6 months, the track renewal programmes, alternative noise reduction measures that are being considered or in delivery, and as she said, a constituency level breakdown is what is really important of the noise level complaints and what action is being taken. I'm more than happy to get that in tray, forgive the pun, as soon as possible, because, as I said, the substance is one issue, but the lack of transparency is a very easily solvable issue. And my promise to her is I'll make sure today I'll speak to the Commissioner's team to try and get some movement there.
Thanks. I do really appreciate that. I would like to just emphasise why it's so important, though, because it just feels like Transport for London don't recognise the value of clear data on the issue has for residents. They're living it with every day. They understand it, to be honest, probably better than TfL in some cases, and they want a dialogue that says this is working, this is not in real time, but as it's happening, rather than waiting, frankly, months for responses, and then when the responses come back, they don't ask they don't answer the questions the residents have asked. They'll give a general picture of what's going on, and so those experiences, that actual genuine engagement, makes such a difference. And obviously, I was elected 2021 in the pandemic already. We were already seeing those restrictions on funding. So something has happened in terms of the way they deal with these complaints and their openness. And it's not just about funding, although I do think we need to look at the resources. So it's that approach. For instance, you've mentioned a forward plan of rail grinding for 6 months that I asked. So the response I got says, well, we can't do that because it's only planned 8 weeks in advance. Fine. Did they offer to tell us 8 weeks in advance? No, they just didn't answer that at all. So it's that approach that makes residents, and frankly us, think that TfL are trying to hide what they're doing. So tell us what they're doing, let us see. No one thinks this is easy, we just want to work together. So if you can really emphasise to TfL that transparency, but also in terms of their response to residents, be specific, be open, and honestly, if they haven't got enough people to respond in decent time, then they need to put more people on it, because this isn't going away.
Yeah, Chair, what I also take away from this, by the way, again, there's nothing she said that I would disagree with. That this is actually a canary in the mine. If TfL aren't responding to members of the Assembly with information and transparency in a manner that is befitting, it begs the question, are they responding to residents in terms of this issue? And so it's really important for us to proceed. And my promise to her is that I'll write to all the Assembly, if that's okay, because obviously I suspect it's an issue for all members of the Assembly in relation to forward programme of meetings with the Assembly, what additional information will be provided. And I can't see a reason why the 8 weeks programme can't be provided. I take the point about when you get the tracks and stuff. But Chair, let me take this away with your permission and come back to all the Assembly. Can I end by how I began, by thanking the member for the assiduous way she's responded, she's dealt with this, but also the collegiate way she wants to move forward. As I said, we all want TfL to succeed. We can't afford residents having this sort of misery when it can be ameliorated.
Much appreciated, thanks. We may talk about this again, I'm sure. Back to you, Chair. Well, maybe even to just say that it's improved. That would be positive, wouldn't it? Back to you, Chair.
I'm pretty certain we'll be talking about this again, so and not just maybe. The next question is entitled Changing Your Mind, and from Assembly Member Wilson.
Good morning, thanks for your question. I've always been guided by that famous quote widely credited to the economist John Maynard Keynes, who's reported to have said, "When the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir?" I'd be intrigued to know what the Assembly member does, however, because I'd kindly point out that the facts haven't changed a number of key issues he tends to raise with me, despite any claims he might make to the contrary. For example, on net zero, the facts show it's more important than ever that we take urgent action to tackle the climate crisis. Our planet is warming at a dangerous rate, and there is scientific consensus that unless we transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy faster, our economies, our safety and our way of life will come under increasing threat. In a city that this summer is experiencing soaring temperatures, the facts show climate action is essential, not only to protect Londoners from extreme heat, but to build a city where energy bills are lower, where children grow up breathing cleaner air, and where London is less exposed to global energy shocks. The facts show reducing our dependence on fossil fuels is good for our climate, good for households, and good for our security and economy. So I wonder when the member will change his mind and embrace this vital push for net zero. I wonder also if the member also accepts the facts that show our public health approach to tackling violent crime is working. London's homicide rate is now at a historic low, with 2025 seeing the fewest number of homicides of victims aged under 25 in London this century, and the fewest teenage homicides in almost 3 decades. The facts also haven't changed about London being the greatest city in the world. The International Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize recognises this. We're a diverse, liberal and progressive city, a city of culture and hospitality with a high standard of living powered by a stronger economy. This is despite the irresponsible politicians and commentators who spread lies and sow division in London for their own political gain. These are the facts, no matter how inconvenient they may be for those who are trying to paint our city as some crime-ridden dystopia. So I trust the member will be changing his mind and changing his tune, and from now on start talking up our city rather than talking it down.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm always happy to talk up London. It is the greatest city in the world, but it could be even greater. But the thing that I'd like to start asking you about, Mr. Mayor, is so you've previously blamed the high cost of new taxis for black cab drivers, which is a deterrent to new drivers entering and existing ones remaining in play on market forces, when in fact it's quite the reverse. It's TfL's requirements on the turning circle that means only one vehicle is approved for use, the LEVC TX. That's a market restriction, not market forces. That's what's stopping competition and better value for drivers. So in response to a previous written question in February last year, you said that there are no plans to remove the existing turning circle requirement for taxis. But at last MQT, you said, it is a question I'm asking. Is this requirement for the turning circle to be the way it is really necessary in 2026? So that seems to be a change of mind. So what has changed the facts to change that mind?
I think what we've seen is with the big increase in private vehicles with Uber, the emerging possibility of automated vehicles, but also the fact that cost hasn't gone down. I know the manufacturer wants to build these taxis, but also interest from other manufacturers who could provide a black taxi much cheaper if there wasn't this requirement. I think TfL should be looking at everything in the toolkit to make sure this is a viable profession going forward. You speak to any taxi driver that's done the knowledge in terms of the service they provide, but also a user, particularly those in a wheelchair. We know how important the black taxi is. So I've asked TfL to think outside the box they've been thinking about what we can do to try and reduce the burden and the cost on our black taxi drivers. What I do not want is black taxi drivers going the way of other London icons like the telephone box and so forth. I don't want them to be extinct. I want them to be viable going forward as well. And so I will report back to the Assembly as soon as TfL come back to me, because I can't, as a layperson, think of a good reason why now we need to continue with that.
Thank you very much. That's a very welcome change of mind. Given that the long-awaited taxi and private hire action plan was only published last year, obviously doesn't refer to this, will you be pushing TfL to provide an updated version that does indeed include this change of mind?
Yeah, I think this is one of a number of issues I'm sure we can agree on. I am, and I also said to TfL, there's no reason for any delay because I'm worried about new drivers doing the knowledge who may take on a big loan to get one of these vehicles that, they cost quite a lot of money, when around the corner could be some good news about the possibility of other vehicles that are cheaper being available. So the sooner the TfL report to me, I'll make sure, assuming it's good news, we can make it public so that nobody inadvertently... There are huge advantages, by the way, in the traditional vehicles, but I'm looking at what we can do to reduce the costs.
That's great. Thank you very much. Another welcome change of mind. Because some changes of mind are good, some changes of mind are bad. But another very welcome change of mind was I was delighted to see the Cross of St George flying outside this building for the two most recent games during the World Cup. It's something that I've been asking for. I'm wondering what it is that has changed your mind about why it took so long, why it wasn't there at the beginning of the tournament. Was it me discussing with other members, other group leaders? Was it my request to the Deputy Mayor for Culture? Was it the voice of the Assembly at the motion at the last plenary meeting? Was it the 13? Was it the 1,300 plus Londoners who've signed my petition, which I'll be presenting in due course, or was it the Secretary of State, Steve Reed, asking local government leaders to do so, as indeed during the Euros it had been a request from DCMS to do it 2 years earlier? Why was that not a decision that you had made yourself, rather than needing the government to make it for you?
Well, it's a very simple explanation. And I like to give credit to the Assembly where I can, but this has nothing to do with the Assembly. Basically, what we do is we like other local government, follow government guidelines, and so he'll be aware. And we did the same with the previous government as well. He'll be aware that there have been examples in the past where regional leaders, local leaders have put up flags that has caused legal challenges and real problems. And so as long as I've been there, we've always followed government guidance. By government, it's DCMS. And so when DCMS give advice, we tend to follow that advice. I think it's a good rule of thumb to have because it avoids an assertion being made about two-tier fly flagging, which is, I'm sure is something that Senator Hall is about to say.
I think it would be welcome, Mr Mayor, if you'd be able to make a decision for yourself without relying on government to do it. But going forwards, after you've received my petition, will you agree that going forward for future tournaments, major international competitions when England is competing, so the Commonwealth Games coming up in just a few weeks' time, next year we have the Women's Football World Cup, we have the Men's Cricket World Cup and the Men's Rugby World Cup, will you consider flying the Cross of St George to show your support for the English teams in those competitions?
Well, I think the number is in danger of conflating a number of issues. I think it's perfectly possible to be a proud Englishman and to follow government guidance, and the assertion that somehow by not flying the St George's flag, we should breach government guidance. You're somehow not a proud Englishman. I think is even below the belt for the.
The best way to show your support, Mr. Mayor, is to fly the flag. I'm going to have to pause there because we need to leave time.
There's plenty of time left. Are you not a proud Englishman?
I'm a very proud Englishman. I'm still wearing the flag. I'm still wearing it, Mr. Mayor.
Let's use the time we have to discuss the Englishness. Look, if you're either proud or you're not, let's use the time. You've got time. So I think it's really important to be a proud Englishman and to discuss these issues. And I think there are many Londoners who are proud Scots, proud Welsh, proud
I'm very proudly wearing the England flag and the England flag here as well. Thank you, Mr.
I think what we've got to do, well, you're not out of time, though. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
He's embarrassed about being English as well. Well, let's discuss. I mean, I think
Thank you.
I think we've got 3 hours to discuss being a proud English person. And now he's pointing fingers. Look, you may wear St George's underpants or ties and stuff.
Alex,
He doesn't want to talk about it.
Assembly Member Giorgio, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the theme of flags, I've read recently that the London Borough of Enfield proudly flies the St George's flag, the Union flag of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the Enfield Beast all year round. Why don't you just copy the London Borough of Enfield?
Because Enfield have banned the Pride flag. And I think the message that sends the LGBTQIA+ community in Enfield and across London is saying that he should think about. I'm really proud to be a mayor for all Londoners, but I will follow government guidance.
Mr. Mayor, are LGBT+ members of our London community not also English and British? Is that what you're implying? Well, I would say he's more than welcome to join me, Mr. Chairman, at the fantastic Chroma Festival in Enfield on Saturday, celebrating pride in Enfield and our fantastic LGBT plus community. He's more than welcome. I know the leader, I'll give him a free ticket as well.
Chair, can you confirm he's banned the flag in the town hall?
This is Mayor's question time.
Fake news, Mr. Chairman, fake news. Thank you.
Before we go on to the next question, can we welcome students from the James Murray Summer School, who are where? Somewhere? Are they there? Oh, they're over there. They're sort of dispersed. It makes it easier to... And also students from the Lee Academy Halley in Greenwich, who are just arriving, I think. Hello. And so let's move on now to the next question, which is in the name of Assembly Member Bokhari, and it concerns the Disability Action Plan.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm proud that London is a city of opportunity, inclusivity and possibility. Yet the opportunities afforded by London are not always shared equally. Too many deaf and disabled Londoners still face barriers that limit their opportunities and prevent them participating fully in city life. And that's why I've committed to publishing a Disability Action Plan, the first pan-London Disability Action Plan ever. This will help to fulfil my commitment to building a fairer London for all, a city where everyone gets a fair shot to fulfil their potential and where no Londoner is left behind. I'm proud this will be the first dedicated action plan for deaf and disabled Londoners developed by a Mayor of London, bringing together commitments from across the GLA group under a single plan. The plan responds directly to what deaf and disabled Londoners have told us about the inequalities they face in everyday life, including in housing, in employment, in transport, community safety and in accessing services. Details of these specific commitments and how they will be monitored will be set out when the plan is published. The plan is shaped by the expertise, lived experience and priorities of deaf and disabled Londoners, following close engagement with disabled people and their representative organisations. It is ensuring their voices are at the heart of the actions we are taking. The commitments in the plan are designed to break down barriers, improve accessibility and inclusion, increase participation in city life and expand access to opportunities. Tackling these issues will help us ensure that deaf and disabled Londoners are able to contribute their talents, skills and ambitions to the city and play a full part in their communities. I know there is more to do to achieve this. The inequalities faced by disabled Londoners are deeply rooted and cannot be taken by City Hall alone. However, the upcoming Disability Action Plan represents an important step forward and sets a clear direction for the work ahead for both the GLA and partners across London. Our partnership with deaf and disabled Londoners will be just as important to delivering the plan. By continuing to work with disabled people, boroughs, businesses, public services and community organisations, I'm determined to deliver a more accessible, inclusive and equitable London, a city that's inclusive and provides opportunities for everyone.
Mr Mayor, when will the plan be launched?
The plan will be launched later this year. A publication date and launch arrangements are being organised now.
OK, so it's been delayed from March, from June, July. We still don't have a date. When you get the date, will you be there?
Certainly, will, Chair.
So you're not confirming you will be there?
I certainly will try and be there, yes. We've not got a date for the publication or launch arrangements. It'll be later this summer. OK,
so this has been sent to your office. You can pick a date. You can be at the launch. And I would expect the 1.4 million disabled Londoners would expect you to be there. So have you seen the final draft?
No, I've seen a draft, Chair.
You've not seen the final draft?
No, I haven't.
You've not? Your team?
It's with the team, and they're agreeing.
So your team has seen it, but you've not seen the final draft. Do you think your team are happy with the final draft?
I would expect we'd all want to be happy before we publish it, and that may be one of the reasons.
So I've seen a draft of it, and I can tell you from the extent of that plan, it's not good enough. And I'm going to leave it there. Thank you.
So I'm not sure if there's a question, but.
No, I think it was an ending flourish.
Yes,
the next question is in the name of Assembly Member Russell and steps to address Londoners' repeated ozone exposure.
Thanks for the member's question. I'm proud that since taking office in 2016, London's air quality has improved dramatically. In 2024, London met the legal limit for air quality for the first time since monitoring began, around 200 years earlier than projected when I first became mayor in 2016. As not everyone will be aware, it's worth setting out that ozone is not emitted directly. Instead, it forms when pollutants such as nitrogen oxides, NOx, and volatile organic compounds, VOCs, react in the presence of sunlight. Therefore, as hotter, sunnier summers become more common, the conditions that favour ozone formation are increasing, reinforcing the need to tackle the climate emergency and achieve a net zero London. Tackling ozone, therefore, requires us to tackle NOx emissions. The ULEZ has already reduced transport-related NOx emissions and is also expected to reduce vehicle-derived non-methane volatile organic compound emissions through cleaner vehicle technologies and electrification. Recent analysis shows nitrogen dioxide concentrations were down by 41% between 2019 and 2024, reflecting the impact of all our policies to reduce emissions, particularly from road transport. However, I know more needs to be done. As part of my efforts to meet WHO recommended air quality guidelines, we'll continue our efforts to reduce NOx and VOCs emissions by leading the transition to cleaner, more sustainable travel in London and reducing emissions from heating and construction. It means delivering more electric vehicle charge points on top of the over 30,000 already installed across the capital. It means using non-road mobile machinery low emission zones to continue reducing emissions from construction. It means more zero emission buses, and it means supporting boroughs to tackle local air pollution hotspots through schemes funded by the additional £6 million I've just announced from my air quality fund. As ozone pollution is also influenced by emissions transported from outside London, I'll also work with the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, and its international partners to address this transboundary challenge. It's also important we continue to warn Londoners when periods of particularly bad air pollution are forecast. And that's why we issued high pollution alerts for ozone on the 21st and 23rd of June, activated our air quality alert system so residents, schools and hospital and GP surgeries had advance notice and could take steps to protect themselves and support those most vulnerable to poor air quality. And we'll continue to have a comprehensive approach to this problem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for acknowledging that more needs to be done about this issue. Now, dangerous levels of ozone are formed from existing pollution on long, hot, sunny days, and we're having a lot of those at the moment. It pollutes the whole city and has serious heart and lung health consequences, which is why it matters. Ella Roberta Adukisi-Debra's death showed us how important warnings are, and I'm very glad that you issue them. But I worry that people don't understand or even see the warnings. They're unclear on the health risks, and they don't know that emissions from driving worsen ozone pollution. I think we need to improve the warnings, so instead of moderate or high, we could, for example, use amber or red, which would bring it in line with weather and heat warnings that people are familiar with. So would you be willing to review the ozone warnings that you give to ensure that they're better understood by Londoners?
Chair, the member, as always, makes a very good point about are these user-friendly. Can I take this away in terms of would traffic light systems make it easier for people to understand? And also, as you were speaking, it occurred to me we should see if there are more ways to amplify. At the moment, we use the underground announcements, the roadside displays, press statements, social media, and we've got lots of emails. But is there more we can be doing? People are told when there's high pollen count.
Yeah, it's about getting people to understand also how ozone works, because it's a different kind of pollution from the others. I mean, often you get moderate ozone pollution hitting London before you get to the higher episodes, and that the risk of that worsens with heat. So do you think you could extend your warnings and issue advice on moderate or amber days as well, so people get that build-up?
I suspect this is like a number of areas where she's a better expert than I am. Can I take that away in terms of what I don't want to do is confuse Londoners?
Absolutely, take it away. I've got another idea for you as well. When Paris has an ozone warning, I've literally been reading French press releases, it is issued over a wider region, wider than London. Their messaging is similar to yours, but it also reduces speed limits and asks people specifically to avoid driving at all. Would you have a look at what they're doing in Paris and consider taking similar steps here in London?
I'm surprised the member says there's a wider area, because the actual area covered by the mayor's tiny.
It's the Ile-de-France.
Yeah,
so that's an area bigger than Greater London.
You mean Greater Paris? Let me take that away. And again, we're always happy to learn from other cities if they're doing things in a more effective way.
Thank you. And finally, this last week we saw a study on excess deaths from recent heat waves. And I'm just wondering if you could commission some research to get better understanding of the health impacts of ozone, including during recent heat waves.
Well, actually, the London School of Tropics and Hygiene and Imperial College did a world-leading piece of work in terms of excess deaths. I think they calculated in 2 months alone 2,700 excess deaths. I'm keen not to do research when others are doing it. What we can do is look into what additional research may need to be commissioned, and so I don't want experts here to duplicate work others have done. But we are looking at what more needs to be done. I think the issue of research is I think now comprehensive. The issue is how we use the evidence we know clearly exists for action to be taken. So I'm more interested in that. But I'll ask my team to look into any suggestions she has in terms of what more we can do to avoid a situation where this time next year we're talking about thousands of people dying who need not have died.
Thank you. And I think with these rising heat episodes, it's really important we do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from Assemblymember Hall, and it's entitled Failing Grade.
Can I thank them for her substantive question? I don't believe in marking my own homework, so I'm always happy for Londoners to express their views because ultimately they're the judges of my record. And it's worth noting they've re-elected me not once, but twice, and the second time with an increased vote share. That's the beauty of democracy, of course. Londoners are given a regular chance to have their say on a candidate or incumbent's record and decide which they prefer. But what I would say is that when considering how to grade our efforts at City Hall, Londoners might take into account the fact we've just delivered another year of free, nutritious school meals in all London state primary schools, ensuring our children don't go hungry in the classroom, and in saving families around £1,500 per child over 3 years, a vital saving for many families which were sadly opposed by some members of the Assembly. Londoners might also note the fact that our air is much cleaner now than it used to be thanks to the various measures we've taken, including introducing the ultra-low emission zone, also opposed by many, and putting more than 3,000 zero-emission buses on our streets. As a result of this ambitious action to tackle air pollution, the evidence shows that there have been fewer Londoners admitted to hospital for heart problems, and experts from Imperial College London estimate that the number of premature deaths in our city linked to toxic air has fallen by 40%, meaning thousands of Londoners are now living longer, healthier lives. Many Londoners will also be aware that bus and tram fares have been frozen again, and that the number of London employers paying the London living wage has increased sevenfold, and that London's homicide rate is now at its lowest level in recorded history. Although I don't like to mark my own homework, others have, including the Lee Kuan Yew Prize judges, Resonance Consultancy, TripAdvisor, Time Out, Investopedia, Mori Foundation, eDreams, Odigio, the Kearney Global Power City Index, Aura Print, Forbes, and many others. They've all given us top marks. Regrettably, there are some people who want to talk our city down, but I think Londoners know the reality of their city better than anyone else and can see the huge strides we've taken to make it a fairer, greener, safer, and more prosperous place for everyone. I have faith in their judgment.
Assemblymember Georgiou, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, in the last 12 months, you've flown to Africa, New York, Japan, Brazil, Singapore, and that's just to name a few. You've clocked up nearly 100,000 air miles. That's equivalent to almost 4 times around the Earth, about 14 return trips from London and New York, roughly 8 days continuously spent in the air. What marks out of 10 would you give yourself for being the greenest mayor ever?
Well, as a comparison, in 8 years, the previous mayor took 34 flights. In more than 10 and a half, I think I've done 17. So I'm flying half as much as the previous guy, and we're number one in far more things than the previous guy was. So number one for delivery for this city, number 3 in terms of the 3 mayors for flights taken, number 1 for delivery on the basis of travelling overseas, number 1 for banging the drum for our city, number 1 for foreign direct investment. No other city in the world except for Dubai gets more FDI than I do. Number 1 for life sciences capital of Europe. Number 1 for tech capital of Europe.
Mr. Mayor, that wasn't the question. That wasn't the question. My question is, what marks would you give yourself out of 10? You claim you're the greenest mayor ever. You penalise Londoners for going about their lives and driving their cars, ULEZ, LTNs, the other woke rubbish that you promote. You say you're the greenest mayor ever, but yet you're clocking up all these air miles. You're obsessed with the previous guy. The previous guy didn't bang on about this stuff, but you do. So are you not a hypocrite?
Sorry, Chair, I said number one. I should have answered marks out of 10. 10 out of 10, 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 10 out of 10.
So, Mr. Mayor, let's try this a different way, because, you know, I know you're obsessed with Boris. I don't know what it is. Maybe because he got to be Prime Minister and you won't when Andy puts you in the Lords. But anyway, that's by the by. The average petrol car in London generates 2 tonnes of CO2 a year, whereas your jollies abroad have generated 40 times that at 80 tonnes of CO2 in the last year. Once again, do you still view yourself as the greenest mayor of London ever?
I think the fact that some on this assembly are so hostile to our net zero policies, there must be a reason for that, and that's because we're delivering on net zero policies. We're cleaning up the air. We're reducing emissions. I think 27%, 24% reduction since I became mayor, 37% reduction since 1990. So emissions are going down in London. Air quality is improving in London. Green jobs are being created in London, as well as other investment in London. Now, he may not like it because he doesn't like London doing well. Londoners do.
London did very well under a Conservative mayor, but let's come back to your record, Mr. Mayor. Once again, you are penalising Londoners. Let me put it a different way. If it had been a Conservative, let's say the roles were reversed and you were not Mayor of London, let's say Assembly Member Polanski was Mayor of London, possibly Assembly Member Prince was Mayor of London, maybe the Lord Len of Greenwich was Mayor of London, or even Safer with Susan was Mayor of London. Excuse me. And they oh, sorry. And sorry. Mayor Bakari of Merton was Mayor of London. And they had claimed to be the greenest mayors of London, but jet-setted all over the world. Would you not call them a hypocrite?
I think he missed out the Reform Party.
No, I said Mayor Prince. I did say it, yeah.
Look, listen, if it's good for our city, good for our country, I welcome it. There's been times where Conservative Prime Ministers have done things that I support and I've welcomed it. So I remember Wilson, in terms of black taxis, I think we agreed on terms of there are some things that are above party politics. I'm just disappointed that he plays this and apologies to those in the sixth form student politics, debating society stuff. You're far better than him, by the way. But don't try to emulate him. It's poor.
I'd rather have one of them up there as Mayor of London than you, mate. But we'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Assembly Member Garrett, please.
Morning. So,
any of you, by the way.
I'm wondering what marks out of 10 Londoners might give you for your new crusade against the nighttime NIMBYs that you've recently announced. Obviously, the pantomime villain in this story is the Soho Society. I don't think anyone really has very much time for people who move to Soho and then complain about noise, so they're not really who I'm interested in. It turns out, in fact, they only object to a minority of applications. But a group that objects to most applications for licensing in Soho is the Metropolitan Police. Since they are already under your remit, I wondered what you are already doing to try to reduce the number of objections to late licences in Soho from the Met Police.
I thank the member for his question. He's asked a substantive question later. I'll send him the written answer to save time. So he's not quite right in terms of the society. Their most recent policy is a blanket objection and a blanket challenge to all new late night applications and all existing licences for bar and restaurants. So he's not quite right in terms of
No, I am right, because what I've done, firstly, is I've actually done a thing that you rarely do, which is check the facts. They themselves claim that they object to about 29 or 31%. I actually analysed 2 years of Westminster licensing applications and I came up with 36%. Their policy seems to be getting a lot of headlines, but it's not actually what they do. But it is the Met Police. That was what my question was about. I'm not really interested in defending the Soho Society. I'm just interested in facts. It is the police who object to a majority of applications. And whatever the Soho Society do, if the police are still objecting, that's a substantive objection from a statutory authority that is already under your influence. So what are you already doing to reduce objections to nightlife, late licences in Soho from the Met Police?
Well, he's not quite right, because the stats he has predates the meeting where the Society passed this motion to object to every single application. I'm happy for him to correct me.
It's a restatement of the existing policy.
Okay. So since they've had this policy in terms of objection to every single application, we'll see how many objections they put forward. What we do know is that councils decide. Councils decide what happens in terms of an application, not the police. The police can respond as other partners can. We can now respond as well. But it's for the council to decide in terms of a response. In terms of the West End, what we're doing to reassure the communities there is to invest huge sums of money in terms of West End policing. Not just the £4.5 million we've invested recently in terms of the command cell, doubling the number of officers in that particular part of London, the town centre teams, to make sure they're confident in terms of the resources they have. It's really important for councils to understand the importance of the nighttime economy. Sometimes the police will respond in a way that raises concerns. The council, working with the police, the person applying for the licence and others, should seek to address those concerns.
Yeah, you've not really addressed the key issue, although you've hinted at it, which is the crime levels. And it really is about crime. It's not about NIMBYs, really. And in particular, the fact that Soho sits at the heart of London's biggest crime hotspot. I'm sure you remember that I brought up mobile phone theft a while back. Actually, 26% of all the mobile phones stolen in London are stolen in one of the 2 wards around Soho. Westminster, in fact, has more theft than the next 5 highest theft boroughs put together. And it's a similar pattern that you see for volume crime, for serious crime. It's very high in Westminster, and the crime in Westminster is concentrated in the area around Soho. The police are struggling to cope. You've just given some figures, but really it's not enough to deal with what is a substantial crime wave occurring in that part of London. The police are struggling to cope. You're largely in denial that there's a problem with crime in London. You always call it disinformation. And so the police there have to fall back on the only lever they really have, which is to try to object to more licences, to try and reduce the number of people and reduce the nightlife activity. It's that high crime is the real reason why there's a challenge getting late licences in Soho. And so my question is, in all this talk of your new licensing strategy, will it mention and will it engage with this crime problem, or will you just, continue to shout at the local council and at local residents as if somehow they're to blame?
Let me try and answer that. So I think the members conflating the genuine concern people have with high volume crime, and having your phone stolen is incredibly distressing, and licences and processing of licences and the police view on licences and the police response to the increase across the globe in terms of mobile phone thefts. The good news in relation to mobile phone thefts, as he's mentioned it, is over the past year there's been a big decrease in phone thefts in Westminster, 19% reduction in robbery and a 38% reduction in theft from person. Operation Reckoning, which deals with phone thefts, as he's mentioned it, has led to 13,000 fewer phones being stolen over the past year. A lot of that is in the West End, 40% in the West End. So phone thefts we're taking action on, and I mentioned the £4.5 million additional investment, but also the Commissioner's got the phone companies to move as well in terms of prevention, really important. So phone thefts we're going to continue to make progress on. The second issue you raised, the substantive issue I thought, was in relation to licences. And when he speaks to, as I've done, those that run venues and bars and other places, their biggest concern is licences. They call it the Wild West. And so, although it's good news, we've made progress in terms of our theatres, our music, our grassroots, our pubs. The big challenge is the process of licensing. The 33 different boroughs doing it 33 different ways, and also a small minority of residents, causing real headaches for locally elected councillors. Locally elected councillors, often a majority of a couple of dozen, are clearly conscious about residents raising concerns. And just one stat I'll end with, because I know the man wants to come back, is in London, 82% of licences are granted. Across the country, 91%, a big 10% difference in London. He will try and say that's because of mobile phone thefts in London. It isn't. It's because of NIMBYs influencing councils who say no.
OK, we've for once had a substantive answer, which is that the Mayor's licensing policy will not engage with the crime problem, which is the real problem in Soho. Thank you.
Assembly Member Mahfouz, please.
Thank you, Chair. So we actually had at the Economy Committee a Deputy Mayor there a couple of weeks back, and she said that if we had the licensing powers that New York City had, we could add an additional £2 billion to London's economy. We also heard from experts from the industry, and just to quote some of the sector experts in terms of the changes that we're going to be seeing as part of this licensing. So Sam Spencer, Director of Live Operations at Broadwick Live and member of the Nightlife Task Force, said, "This is a major moment for London's nighttime economy. It's encouraging to see real leadership in bringing forward a more joined-up economics, culture-first informed approach." Kate Nichols, Chair of UK Hospitality, said that this approach to licensing from the Mayor will deliver exactly that. This consistent approach is much needed to deliver economic growth, meet the needs of Londoners and satisfy demand from millions of international visitors. Now, we are seeing we've heard some really quality gaslighting earlier today. You, as Mayor, have invested record numbers in the Met Police. We have seen an 80-strong, they don't want to hear it because they know that you're delivering, an 80-strong team for the West End and that particular area in order to deal with the crime challenges that you've inherited from the previous Mayor. So quickly, very quickly, on Mr. Mayor, are you on the side of growth, jobs and nightlife? Are you on the side of Neil Garrett, the NIMBYs, and those who want to talk London down? I think I pointed out it's the Met Police who are objecting, Assembly Member Mahfouz, and of course I am on their side.
There are some high-pitched concerns being raised from that part of the room. I think what they don't appreciate, and we know, is that the nightlife economy contributes more than £21 billion. £21 billion to our economy. It employs more than 150,000 people. It brings communities together. It attracts visitors, and it's incredibly important. And I want to pay tribute to all those who work in this really important sector. What we want to recognise is there are big challenges. Yes, there are big challenges caused by the pandemic, the legacy of Brexit. There are big challenges in terms of the Wild West, in their words, not mine, of licensing. And we're taking action to address their concerns. Now, it may be politically inconvenient that the council who run Westminster, are listening to a handful of residents. I call them NIMBYs, and they've got a blanket policy, to object to every single application made, every single application for a license. I think that's wrong. I think it's not good for those businesses, it's not good for that community, it's not good for London, and to conflate the progress we're making on reducing crime with the reasons why this council is saying no is a good example of misinformation. And it's really important to call them out for doing so.
You've had your chance, Assembly Member Garrett. Maybe you could pipe down. So Mr. Mayor, what's going on? Is this being chaired or not? It's ridiculous. Yeah. If you want special time with me, you can ask for that separately. But look, so, Mr. Mayor, you've as part of your mayoralty, almost 300,000 children across London are benefiting from your universal free school offer, which you said you would deliver as part of the last manifesto. And your opposite number, Susan Hall, who's asked you this leading question, has said that she would have got rid of if she'd been elected mayor. We've also seen the first. Sorry, nobody's asked you. The first generation of young people across London, many of them here today, I think it's important who will benefit from
the
cleaner air that you have delivered within legal limits for the first time ever across London. 40% estimated reduction in lives lost as part of the bold decisions that you've taken, which again were opposed by your opposite number. And you've launched the multi-bank in Greenford in my constituency, which has helped over 40,000 families challenged by the cost of living crisis. So again, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to ask you, whose side are you on? Young Londoners or the side of people like Susan Hall who are going to put London down?
Can I just, on a point of personal explanation, point of order?
Thank you, Chair. I am sick to death of these lies coming out. Absolutely sick to death of it. I normally let this go, but you're lying, and the Mayor has done too on this particular subject. I have pointed out numerous times, free school meals are not free. Somebody has to pay for them. I never said I would stop it in that year. I said I'd look at it, because free means cost nothing. These meals do not cost nothing. So do not say I was going to stop it, because that is not what I said. I'm sick to death of this being repeated. It's incorrect, and you owe me an apology. And actually, you do too, because you've said it as well.
Mr. Chair, I mean, clearly that sounded like the most supportive commentary of free school meals I've ever heard. And what she said at the time was that she would commit for 1 year, but no guarantee beyond that point. So it was under threat under her leadership.
It's not a debate, Assembly Member Foose, but we will get the Mayor's answer to your question.
Chair, I'm just waiting for the Conservatives to make people pay for policing, or pay for the fire service, or pay for the National Health Service, just like we do for universal free school meals.
I think he thinks there's a money tree, a free money tree.
Allow the Mayor to answer, please.
And so I'm incredibly proud of some of the policies over the last 10.5 years that have led to an improvement in not just the quality of life for Londoners, but really help them address what is a cost of living crisis. So I am proud, as the member suggests, Senator Mahfouz, that despite objections from some on the Assembly, we use the finite tax resources we have to pay for children in our primary schools to receive a nutritious free school meals. And the evidence shows that our investment in these children has led to greater productivity, better attendance, better relations between teachers, the school and parents, but also really good productivity improvements as well, and helping parents with the cost of living crisis. That was a conscious choice I made with the support of some in the Assembly and despite the opposition of others. Similarly, it was a deliberate and conscious choice I made to address the issue of the air quality crisis in our city, leading to thousands of premature deaths, children having stunted lungs forever, adults having a whole host of health issues from asthma to cancer, dementia to heart disease. It was a choice I made with the support of some on the Assembly and the objection of others on the Assembly. And we can see the benefits now. Similarly, support with the multi-bank that's helping his constituents. Those are choices I make with the limited resources and powers I have. And what's remarkable is after the event, when these policies are shown to be effective and popular, you see this nonsense points of information, points of order, because they lose election after election after election, and the public doesn't like them very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to say, teachers, parents, young people absolutely back that free school meal that you've delivered, and they very much support it, and that was very evident in the elections last time round. Thanks.
Assembly Member Bailey, please.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor. What marks would you give yourself for transparency? Last month, I chased you up on your failure to provide statistics around your completions and starts in your affordable housing programme. I asked you for answer then. In the last 2 Mayor's Question Times, I've asked you for these stats. I've written to you on 2 separate occasions, May the 26th, June the 27th, I wrote to you. I've asked you the question in December, February, May and June, and you found it impossible to provide these stats because I still don't have them. So what is so hard about providing these stats?
Chair, I'm simply unaware what the difficulty is providing the stats. It seems to me an exercise that should be relatively straightforward. I apologise. He's not been given that stats if I promised him he'd have them. I assure him I'll be in touch with him today to find out what the delay's been and to make sure he gets an answer to that.
I appreciate the answer, but I'd rather have the stats than understand why. Even Molior, an established, well-established firm in the housing world, have been asking for these stats. They've contacted your office a number of times. They've had to contact the ICO over your lack of response to these things. Now, any Londoner could be forgiven for assuming there's something to hide because there's billions of pounds of taxpayers' money involved. You say these starts have happened. You constantly quote your housing figures, but yet you can't provide us with the proof of these figures. Why would we believe you?
Chair, I don't know, but I apologise that he's been promised these stats. He's not given them. I'll get back to him today with an explanation and a further apology. I'm sorry.
Right. I'll hold you to that. Let me change direction. Why haven't you produced your diary? You promised to produce your diary. You claim to be the most transparent mayor. We haven't seen your diary for 2 years.
Well, 2 points to make to that, Chair. I'm the first man to publish my diary. My diary has been given to the relevant people in the GLA to publish it, so I'm not sure why it's not been published. Well, and so since he last... since you raised it at the last Mayor's Question Time, I did go back to the office. They confirmed to me that unlike previous mayors, they publish in my diary, but also confirmed to me they'd ensure it's given to the relevant team to publish on the website as normally happens. And I'm not sure why that's not happened, but it should have happened.
There's two things. Your obsession with previous mayors is irrelevant. This is about you and what you have promised.
Well, no, it confirms
right?
that I'm the most fully transparent mayor. That's,
no, you're
that's
not.
the assertion borne out by the facts.
If you had published the diary, then you would be a transparent mayor. Saying you're going to publish it and then not publishing it makes you even less transparent than anybody else. Transparency is us seeing the diary. We haven't seen the diary. You cannot claim to be transparent. That's a fact.
I've been patient.
Mic on.
I claim to be the most transparent mayor. Now, the only way you can make that assertion conclude whether it's true or false is if you compare the current mayor with the previous two. So I compare myself with the previous two when it comes to the publication of information. And it is a fact which may be an inconvenience to the Conservatives that I'm the most transparent mayor since mayors were set up in the year 2000. There's a different point about a promise I made to the member which I've not delivered on, and I apologise for that, and I will make sure somebody gets back to him today with an explanation of why a promise I made to him wasn't actioned. There's a separate issue about, at last Mayor's Question Time, he raised the issue that there'd been some delay in terms of me proactively publishing my diary, which hadn't happened, but has been given to the relevant team in the GLA to publish. I'm not sure why it's not been published. But for him to say, I can't mention previous mayors when he's comparing me to previous mayors is just nonsense.
Well, OK, let's take it like this. Those mayors weren't transparent as far as you're concerned because they didn't publish their diary. You have also failed to publish your diary, so you are also not transparent. And what makes it worse is the hypocrisy involved. They never promised to publish their diaries. You did. Where is the diary? Until you produce the diary, you are a hypocrite. It is that simple. You cannot laugh this one off. Any Londoner sat at home now could say to themselves, why hasn't he published the diary? Why hasn't he published the housing figures? What is he trying to hide? It would be entirely reasonable to have that view of your behaviour.
Assembly member, there's certain words that I think we should avoid in this chamber, and you've just used one of them.
What was that lying?
Hypocrite.
Hypocrite. I'm afraid I have absolutely no intention of withdrawing the word. You issue the diary, you issue those figures, and I will quite happily remove the word hypocrite. But until they materialise, hypocrite stays. Thank you, Chair.
For those watching who wonder why he's so sensitive, I beat him as well in a mayoral election, which just and you can.
What are you hiding?
And you can see
why.
What
are you hiding? What are you hiding?
So let me deal with the issue of. Let me deal with the issue of...
Steady now. The last person who said that ended up in court. Steady.
I see there are threats being made now as well, Chair. But let me deal with the issue of transparency. So voluntarily publishing my diary is one example why I'm the most transparent mayor ever. There are other things that we do during my mayoralty that no previous mayors have done, whether it's how we consult with Londoners through Talk at London, whether it's the duration of consultation periods. Whether it's
sorry, Mayor, to interrupt. I have actually run out of time. I can't take that. Sorry. Chair, back to you.
Well, no, Chair, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. Look, there are 18 minutes left. I've been accused of being a liar and a hypocrite. When there's he either thinks it's serious and worth exploring, or he doesn't. So let's use the 18 minutes to talk about my transparency.
Fully no, it's not my 18 minutes to give.
I've published.
Chair?
It appears like...
Chair, I'm done.
It disappears
We know
like
you're done,
that
but the issue is whether... The issue is whether I'm allowed time to respond.
That question has been exhausted, and I'm exhausted after that question. So, Assembly Member Hirani, please.
Thank you, Chair. What score would you give Assembly Member Lord Bailey over transparency over his diary in December 2021?
Well,
steady, Chair, steady there.
Well, no. Let's be clear. What the allegation was at a time when there were COVID rules in place. The allegation is some people were breaching those rules, having parties, not just in Downing Street, but elsewhere. And my abiding image is not just friends of mine not being able to go to their funerals and attend weddings, but Her Late Majesty the Queen, when the Duke of Edinburgh had passed away, mourning by herself while she'd long lost her loved one. You compare and contrast that behaviour, that dignity, that leadership with the allegations made against members of the Conservative Party. I know who's a hypocrite and who's a liar. It ain't the Queen.
I think this line is not, doesn't put us in the best light.
Well, let him defend himself, Chair. Why are you defending him? Let him defend himself.
This is not a discussion of other members' behaviour.
Thank you.
That's not what this meeting is about. There are other places to discuss member behaviour, and it's not here.
Thank you. I've still got questions. So just on failing grades, so I'll just want to follow up on the questioning around foreign travel. And every year here we support and commemorate Holocaust Memorial Day. And I know there was a lot said about foreign travel, but I'd like to sort of give you the opportunity to reflect on your travel this month in Srebrenica, which is a really important issue for Londoners. I remember growing up in primary school and kids coming over who'd been impacted in the regions, coming over as refugees in my classroom. What does it mean to people who were impacted at the time today for you to represent London in that way?
Look, can I thank him for his question? I think one of the joys of London is we get to meet people who've got different life experiences to those of us born and raised here. And no matter how many genocide survivors you speak to, nothing prepares you for going to the source of where the evil took place, whether it's Auschwitz, Birkenau, or whether it's Srebrenica. I'll be quite frank, it's changed me forever going there, meeting the mothers and the survivors, seeing where the killings took place, as it did when I went to Auschwitz and Birkenau. I say this in a respectful way because there's time for knockabout stuff and there's time not for knockabout stuff. As much as I use Teams and Zooms and I'm on the phone, there are some things that you need to experience for yourself. And it is now 31 years since that genocide took place. More than 8,300 men and boys were killed. More than 30,000 women, children and elderly were forcibly removed. There are still more than 1,000 bodies missing. And there are Londoners who are from that part of the world, Bosniaks as well. And I think it's a huge show of respect to them, the comments I've had from them, but also it's a way we can remember. And we have events here every year to commemorate them. And I've met some of the survivors since I went to Bosnia who are just so touched and moved that I took the trouble to go to visit this memorial centre, as indeed there have been Jewish Londoners who've been so touched and moved that I've been to Auschwitz as well.
Assembly Member Best, please.
Thank you. Mr Mayor, I was surprised earlier to hear you rank yourself 10 out of 10, I think, across the board when you spoke to Assembly Member Georgiou. I'm not sure that you've met many Londoners recently because I don't think that's the consensus you'll be hearing. So perhaps you could take the summer recess to do that and let us know what you hear back. I'm sure it won't be 10 out of 10 across the board. Talking about an area where I think you're particularly failing, and I think London knows you're failing, is in your role as Police and Crime Commissioner. And looking at particularly at the performance of what's happening in Chiswick Riverside ward. Last year, there was 128 thefts. There was 0 thefts solved in that ward. When you look at the response times for non-emergency 999 calls there, in 2019, it was taking 2,428 minutes for police officers to arrive. In 2024, that's grown to 3,220 minutes. Therefore, it seemed really bizarre on the 2nd of July that police attended a call to tell a member in a pub after a row on Twitter that he hadn't committed a crime. Do you think that this is the best use of resources when we can't even turn up to non-serious 999 calls within 2 days, but we can turn up within 2 hours because somebody was mean to someone on Twitter?
So, Chair, I've got to do my best. I've got a very short answer to the question she asked later on, which I can read out, or it's a very short answer if it helps.
I think you can answer the question in the way you want. Do you think that was the right thing, the right response? Is there a better way in which we can be policing?
I think the response, when you look at the facts as we know them, appears odd, bearing in mind the reason she said. When the police have finite resources, you'd expect them to prioritise certain things. There is a context, though, which I'm guided by time, which there is a context, though, to the police response. But on the face of it, it clearly appears odd.
I think that we all understand, and many of us are councillors as well as obviously elected members, and you yourself will know more than any politician probably in the UK the threat. However, that's not a privilege we can take advantage of. And is it right that the Met follows up to investigate why this was dealt with so quickly and whether any mark was overstepped?
Yeah, can I say again, I fully understand where she's coming from, and so, and I say this in a diplomatic way, it is open to a member of the public to go to the police watchdog to make a complaint if they're unhappy, and that leads to the sort of, it's one thing the police looking at their own processes, but it's one thing for there to be a complaint made. But I'll go through the answer. On the face of it, I can't but agree that, bearing in mind the other issues taking place in that part of London, this seems a difficult thing to explain in terms of use of resources.
Okay, thank you. And you said a member of the public. Will you yourself resolve to go and ask questions as to why this happened?
Oh, well, I have. That's why I got the briefing.
Okay,
that's why, because one of the problems, Chair, with this, I'm not criticising members, is the way we used to do it was there's questions and we can go back, but because we do it as a different part, but I've got full answer and explanation which I can go into, but I'm conscious of time.
If you could send me if you have looked into it and know why they attended, that would be really helpful.
Sure. Which also includes the police side of events, but I'm more than happy to write to the member.
I've read the police statement. It doesn't provide any clarity, so hopefully it's more than that.
The next question is in the name of Assembly Member Mahfouz, and it's the devolution agenda.
Can I thank the member for his question? We now have a government who are willing to work closely with London and one that understands the importance of investing in the city. This has been a refreshing change from previous governments who sought to level down London. The outgoing Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has been a friend and colleague for over 3 decades, and the changes that he's put in place will have a lasting impact both in London and nationally. This includes the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Act, which is the single biggest transfer of powers away from Whitehall in over 15 years, billions of pounds of investment to boost house building across London, the largest TfL funding settlement in London for over a decade, and powers for the first of its kind London Strategic Licensing Pilot, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to boost London's nighttime economy. With the new Prime Minister, I'm certain that we can build on the good work that's been done and chart a positive course forward, both for London and the country. It's not London versus the rest of the country, it's London and the rest of the UK. London is a huge asset to the UK. It's the world's greatest city and the UK's gateway to international investment. Giving London the tools and support to fire on all cylinders isn't just good for London, it's good for Britain. And London growth doesn't come at the expense of other cities and regions. On the contrary, it helps to support jobs, supply chains and industry across the country. To ensure we have the investment needed, I'll be pressing the incoming Prime Minister to keep momentum on devolution to London and other parts of the country, including fiscal devolution, ensuring timely delivery of the visitor levy and devolving more suburban rail services to TfL. Giving London more devolved powers will ensure that we remain internationally competitive with other major cities and can help drive the UK economy. Ultimately, my message to the next Prime Minister will be the same message I've given to the previous 6 Prime Ministers I've worked with as Mayor. And London needs the continued backing of government, because when London succeeds, our country succeeds.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And obviously, as we know with Andy Burnham, we've got somebody who understands the difference a mayor can make and has seen what London can deliver on the ground. One of the things that has held back growth in London has been having to go cap in hand every time you want capital investment for major new projects such as West London Orbital, Bakerloo Line extension, DLR extension, which will actually unlock the new homes that we desperately need for our city. And as you say, not just growth for London, but growth for the country as well. How do you see that going forward in terms of making sure that we've got the tourism levy, the overnight stay levy on the table, which is brilliant to see that as a key first step in terms of fiscal devolution. What other measures, as has been suggested already by the Oversight and in terms of the Budget Committee, around unlocking future income from council tax and business rates that could unlock these sorts of projects going forward?
Well, I think one of the things, can I thank him for his question and his interest in this issue over a number of years. I mean, we are the most centralised democracy in the Western world. I mean, there needs to be greater fiscal devolution. And so the money's raised by Treasury from London. 4 out of every £10 comes from London. We think we could contribute more with the right levers, the right fiscal devolution. The Elizabeth line is the best example of investment in infrastructure that leads to not just more jobs and more homes and more prosperity, but it benefits people across the country in terms of not just where the trains are built, where the lines are built, but jobs across the country and the supply chain. And there are other examples of investment in London that benefits other parts of the country. We've not got all the expertise in terms of engineers, tech, manufacturing. Other parts of the country do. And one of the advantages, is probably the only one I can think of being outside the European Union, is we can have made in Britain almost as a requirement of procurement. And so we'd like to play our part in terms of, contributing more to the Treasury, creating more jobs, wealth and prosperity. And I'm confident with the incoming Prime Minister that he will make sure that the machinery of the Treasury in particular and other parts of the government are hot-wired in a different way to make sure they stop thinking the same way they've always done about, for example, the Green Book rules and so forth, to make sure we get these projects off the ground. And the final thing is we need the government to give us more innovative ways to raise funds ourselves, whether it's TIF or other schemes as well, because we think, look at Elizabeth Line, Northern Line Extension, other projects that we could play our role, given the flexibility to do so.
That is really positive to hear, and I think, certainly that was a key takeaway when I spoke to other cities across the world. Every other city had different levers that they had to be able to use and then invest into the city to make it a greater place to live. One of the things that Rachel Reeves has said, and obviously we don't know who will be the new Chancellor going forward, but one of the things she had already on the table was a greater retention of income tax and potentially national insurance going forward. Is that something that you would want to follow up with the new Chancellor?
Well, I think the May's lecture is the floor, not the ceiling, in terms of fiscal devolution, in terms of the taxes that are raised in London. More of it, we should determine how it's spent. One of the many reasons many of us were against the operating grant being taken away from London by the previous government is because it meant that there was the levers we had and flexibility we had was gone. The good news over the last year is we've been given an integrated settlement over 2 years initially, then 3 years. So we'll have the flexibility to spend how we want to spend rather than it being particularly straitjacketed how we spend the money.
Thank you very much.
Before we move to the next question, I'd like to welcome members of the Shadwell Citizens UK who are there planning the Cable Street development. And also, I'm delighted to welcome the Deputy Chief Minister of Penang, Jagdeep Singh Deo is here. And if I could just say, Selamat Datang ke London. And if I've messed that up, I apologise. We'll go to the next question, which is in the name of Assembly Member Hirani, and it's improving the health of young Londoners.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. I want London to be the greatest city in the world to grow up in, where all young people have access to opportunities they need to fulfil their full potential. Sport has the power to transform lives. It allows young people to build relationships with trusted adults and connect with their peers, and to build the fitness, skills and resilience needed for the future. It made a huge difference to me and still is. That's why the GLA has partnered with the London Marathon Foundation and Sport England to create Go London, a £22.5 million fund and the largest sport-focused fund in the capital. With strategic support from London Sport and London Marathon Events, we're working to increase the availability of community sport provision with a particular focus on the young people who are most underserved. We're working with leading sports organisations, leagues, brands and governing bodies to expand access to sport, develop the workforce that delivers it, and strengthen community provision across London. That includes things like the Basketball Task Force for London, which brings together leaders from sport, education, business and culture to develop recommendations for growing the game and increasing participation. The investment in basketball alone also includes the £2 million London Coaches Programme delivered by Basketball England and match funded by the NBA, and more than £800,000 in a new London Basketball Facilities programme to improve community courts across the capital and provide affordable basketball sessions. Basketball is just one example, though. We're supporting a wide range of sports and physical activities initiatives, including partnerships such as Rally Together London with the Lawn Tennis Association. Evidence also shows that sport can be one of the strongest hooks for engaging young people who are most at risk of violence, exploitation and exclusion. That's why the Violence Reduction Unit embeds sport throughout its prevention work. This includes the £1 million investment in sports-based interventions and pathways into sports careers for young Londoners, a strategic partnership with London United, who represent the community arm of every professional football club in the capital, and the Minds community-led violence prevention programme, which frequently use sport as a key engagement tool.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And this is an incredibly important issue because at the moment 53% of 5 to 16-year-olds in London are not meeting the Chief Medical Officer's guidance on physical activity and exercise. And yet we have 40% of sports halls, 32% of playing fields and 22% of swimming pools that are locked behind school gates. We found recently that 40% are not opening up after school, only 40% open up after school hours as well. Now, I've been looking at this issue through a rapporteurship on the Health Committee, which investigated how we can support schools to open up their facilities after hours. And one of the issues that came up, which is an issue that I think we can help and support and resolve from City Hall, was that the VRU and Go London commissioning isn't as coordinated as it could be. So where you have especially VRU funding sports-related activities, we found that Go London were funding sometimes the same organisations as well. What can we do? Can you commit to reviewing this so that we can maximise the impact and support young people in London?
Yeah, it's important that we, get maximum value of taxpayers' money for the benefits of these young Londoners. Can I suggest that my officers speak to the member wearing his role in the report that he did about what more can be done? There is coordination between the GLA, the VRU, Go London, and Sports England and the London Marathon Foundation to avoid duplication, to avoid there being lack of coordination, and with the councils. But if there are other specific ideas he's got or examples of that not happening, I'm more than happy, Chair, for the team to sit down with him and to make sure we have a process where we get maximum outcomes for the limited monies we've got.
Thank you. For the charities involved, it's often about reporting and reporting back mechanisms, because if they're getting funding from different streams, they have different reporting mechanisms from each stream. So the activity, from what we found, is coordinated, but it's the coordination of how they link in with City Hall.
Okay, that's even more important. I'll tell you why, because often these organisations have got very limited staff. I don't want staff's hands to be tied up filling in forms, returning for 4 different places when they should be with young people. So again, if you could meet with my team, I'll make sure after this meeting, Chair, we organise that, because it's really important.
Thank you. And so while the overall picture of declining youth violence is very positive, I'm concerned about some pockets in our city where it remains an issue, where young people are still getting involved, sadly, in drug dealing and criminal activity. How can the VRU ensure that it's targeting the most at-risk people? At the moment, I'm just really concerned because I'm dealing with multiple issues across Harlesden, Neasden, Church End, Willesden Green and Dollis Hill, certain pockets across south of my constituency. So how can the VRU ensure it's targeting the right people?
Yeah, so one of the ways that the public health approach works is using data, and the data is very micro in terms of within wards, in terms of where crime is being committed, and we're using that data for the Summer Works programme. We're particularly concerned what happens in summer months with young people. So again, Chair, more than happy for the VRU to brief him on the Summer Works programme, just to explain to him why we take the issues he raised really seriously. There are certain types of antisocial behaviour that are gateways to more serious criminal activity, and we'd rather people be diverted towards lawful, peaceful, safe things rather than the alternative. So it's really important we nip it in the bud, and so I'm really keen for him to see the work VRU is doing, the data-led approach, the granular nature of that data, and where we're targeting our resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think we're approaching that time where we will take a 10-minute break, and so if we return back here at 11:44, thank you very much.
Right, so as you hear, I was just out the room of the toilet. As you hear, they're doing a 10-minute break. So go and grab a coffee, cigarette, whatever you want, and we'll catch you back in a few moments. We keep stream running. Thank you, everyone. Don't forget to hit that like button. We've only got 20 odd likes and there was 100 people watching. I don't know if anyone heard me earlier when I said, according to recent polls, there's a majority that are voting that Sadiq Khan will be in term for a fourth time. That's what was said a few days ago. And this afternoon at 2 p.m, we've got yesterday's copy of the London Assembly Police and Crime Committee. Okay, that's a premiere coming up, so there'll be live chat. I probably won't attend, but it goes live at 2 p.m. Exactly, Jojo. So I don't know where, there's no Londoners in London anymore. There wasn't, God, 25 years ago when I was working in and out of London. Sounds about right, Drew. Unfortunately, mate, yeah. It's this is how I don't get the half the views, I think, lately. Because I've got the dog account and I put notifications on for it, yeah, and vice versa. It's mental. It's mental. That's a point, actually. I'll put the link in the chat for the kick. Okay, I'm going to go quiet. They should be back shortly. Thank you for everyone's patience and sticking along with us. And yes, my head is clearing now. Good morning, UTK. Good to see you. Did you just get a notification that I'm live at all? Absolutely useless. I've been live for nearly 2 hours now. I've been live for nearly 2 hours and everyone's getting notifications. So in the chat, pinned comment is the link to my Kick channel. There's a few videos on there, only of walking a dog. Speaking of the dog, he wants to go for a walk. So I will leave you with the stream. They should be back any minute.
Welcome back, members. The next question to be answered is in the name of Assembly Member Small Edwards, and it concerns devolution and London's future planning powers.
Thanks for your question. Good morning. Good morning. I'll continue to do everything within my powers to support new homes coming forward and deliver the infrastructure London needs to create jobs and growth. I already have some strategic planning powers which help drive affordable housing and sustainable development. The London Plan, the spatial development strategy, is a key part of this. The draft New London Plan published today will show where we can accommodate new housing and economic growth and how. The plan sets out our vision to deliver good growth for Londoners, making best use of land, underpinned by investment in transport and utilities. It will encourage more housing supply from different sources and different types of house builders so that Londoners can have decent homes and London's economy thrives. And it makes clear that to deliver London's housing ambition, we need further commitments to infrastructure investment, continued tube upgrades, delivery of the DLR extension to Thamesmead, and progress on the Baker Line extension, West London Orbital, and additional metroisation. We've successfully made the case for additional planning powers to call in applications for developments with between 50 and 149 units where a borough is minded to refuse permission. My new City Hall Developer Investment Fund received £324 million to unblock stalled sites and £1.5 billion in low-interest loans for private and social housing providers. This is welcome. But to deliver a step change, I want to see further progress. Additional fiscal powers and greater flexibility over local funding would strengthen London's ability to invest in the infrastructure needed to support growth and unlock housing. The Treasury have committed to work with the GLA to look at innovative funding for infrastructure projects. This includes options to better capture the land value growth generated by infrastructure investments. The government's also agreed to introduce mayoral development orders, which would drive housing delivery. Regulations now need to be brought forward so that these powers can be used in practice. I look forward to working with the new Prime Minister and his team on an ambitious programme of further devolution.
Thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Mayor. And the incoming Prime Minister, brilliant incoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has said that we'll get more powers over house building and education as part of his plans. So what further powers do you think, specifically, could make a real difference? And what message would you have for the rest of England in terms of the success that London has had around council house building over your tenure?
Well, I think the key thing is to ensure that the blob doesn't frustrate the new Prime Minister in terms of devolving powers out of Whitehall to London and other parts of the country. We've seen the difference we've made, for example, when the previous government devolved us adult education. We've made some progress in terms of skills. The key prize for us, yes, is education and housing. But what we mean by that is skills between 16 and 19. Careers, incredibly important. Those not in education, employment, training, we think we could make a big difference there. In terms of fiscal devolution, we're not saying in terms of taxes, raise taxes. We're saying rather than the government, the Treasury being in charge of how the money's raised is spent, devolve to us how that's done. So there's a lot of ideas we're talking to the incoming team about what we could do to not just improve governance across our country, so people have more of a connection with their politicians, but to get growth and to get the housing that we need as well, which is incredibly important.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And obviously we have the London Plan released today. Some really ambitious plans over house building, but a lot of them dependent on transport infrastructure. And I've been doing my homework, as you'd expect, and within Mr. Burnham's book, he says, why shouldn't we be able to use a land value capture approach to support the funding of transport infrastructure? How important do you think land value capture could be in transforming transport delivery for London?
Well, like many things, I'm really pleased that Andy's learnt from London. And so he's seen, because we've talked to him about it, the difference the Northern Line extension made in terms of using a sort of land value capture, the Elizabeth Line as well. And I think the frustration he's had in terms of a lack of transport investment in his part of the world, a lack of transport investment in most of the country actually, is a real motivator to try and use investment in infrastructure, not just to stimulate growth, wealth and prosperity, but new homes and so forth. And so he definitely understands the blockages in Treasury, and I'm confident he'll not just unblock those blockages, but actually, ensure that all parts of the country, including London, get the powers and resources they need. And just think about the difference we've made in terms of the Elizabeth Line, Northern Line extension, what we could do with the DLR extension, what we could do with the West London Orbital, which he knows very well, what we could do with the Baker Line extension south. The potential is huge. And by the way, not only do we benefit, the country benefits as well.
I think we could almost be a case study in the benefits economically and in terms of house building that transport infrastructure unlocks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
The next question is also from, this time from Assembly Member Small Edwards, and it concerns the City Hall Developer Investment Fund, which the Mayor has
Thanks for your
just
question.
touched.
The City Hall Developer Investment Fund is a key part of a new, more ambitious and innovative approach that we're taking to kickstarting housing delivery in London. At a time when too many housing schemes are stalled by viability challenges, high construction costs and difficulties accessing finance, I'm taking direct action to unblock development and accelerate house building. This new innovative approach represents a major shift in how House City Hall supports housing delivery. Inspired by international examples, including the more interventionist approach taken in Singapore, it means we're using every tool available, from direct investment and partnership working to innovative financing, to get homes built faster and increase housing delivery. Through the fund, we've secured an additional £324 million allocation to unlock and accelerate housing delivery, particularly new social and affordable homes, alongside £1.5 billion in low-interest loans for housing associations. And I'll continue to work with the government to secure additional funding for the programme, including a devolved share of National Housing Bank funding. Our flagship £100 million equity investment at Silvertown will deliver 7,000 new homes, unlock further development on a site that lay derelict for 40 years under successive mayors. The initial £324 million allocation will focus on supporting stalled projects capable of delivering housing completions by summer 29. What makes the fund different is its flexibility. Funding can be provided as grants, as loans, equity investment, or other innovative financing solutions, allowing us to intervene where the market's struggling to deliver the homes Londoners need. Our officers are currently assessing the initial round of bids, with allocations to be announced in due course.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if you look at periods in our history where we have built quite a lot of homes, a lot of it has been state-led, for instance, in the post-war period, counter-cyclical investment. So how will making the GLA a strategic and interventionist participant in the house building market provide greater certainty and maximise housing starts and completions in the city?
It's a fair question. Look, I think for 3 decades, ostensibly post-Second World War, both the major parties were building record numbers of council homes. It began with Attlee. Macmillan carried it forward, and there was always like a competition who could build the most council homes. That came to an end, sadly, under Margaret Thatcher's premiership, and it's not been returned since under successive governments. And he raised an interesting point about it being counter-cyclical. So we talked about the challenges private developers are facing. Well, actually, there's an opportunity for these construction workers, those in the industry who currently aren't building the private market sales homes they otherwise would, to be pivoted towards building the homes we desperately need. And we have to diversify the supply of housing. It can't just be all eggs in one basket. We will always need council homes. We always got to keep the tap on. Social rent homes, other sorts of subsidised housing. We'll always need market value homes. Done properly, you can have a diversity of supply that benefits everybody. But we need certainty over the long term. And the government's announcements in relation to the plans for the next 10 years, getting councils house building as well is really important, not just because you're helping the economy, but because if you look at waiting lists across the country, those in temporary accommodation, it's a crisis. But also, we are using taxpayers' money for housing benefit. So we're using it to remunerate landlords rather than in bricks and mortar. It's irrational, not good use of taxpayers' money.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And moving on to leasehold issue now, the current scandal of uncapped service charges and the delays to the reform of leaseholders' tenure is making a lot of prospective leaseholders or shared owners very wary of buying flats. And I think we've had reports of flat buying at kind of a long-term low in London at the moment. And with the majority of new build properties being leasehold flats, what further steps can you take on behalf of Londoners to ensure that the dream of home ownership doesn't become a leasehold nightmare?
Well, firstly, I understand why you can't do this overnight. I get the way macroeconomics works when it comes to this industry. I get the way monies have been secured through loans and stuff. So I understand you can't do it overnight. But we do need to address the scandal of uncapped service charges. Leasehold needs to be reformed. I'm in favour of a common hold system. Leasehold is not fit for purpose. And so I welcome the government saying, and they are going to bring forward a leasehold and common hold reform bill. I think we should make it easier to incentivise people to build common hold homes. There needs to be a transition. Those people who currently have a leasehold, for them to have a common hold home. We in City Hall have published a service charges charter, so you don't get the sort of scandals you hear in other parts of the housing sector. We also make sure that the leases are long, 990-year leases, so you don't get the situation where owners are ripping off tenants to extend their leases and so forth. So I'm confident it will take a few years to get there, but I'm confident over the next 2, 3, 4 years you'll see a massive transformation in the whole leasehold sector. But I recognise that for many people, the dream of being a homeowner has turned into a nightmare because you've got this albatross of the leasehold hanging around your neck and the service charges and ground rent and so forth.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
The next question is in my name, and it concerns the Cable Street Community Land Trust project.
Can I thank you, Chair, for your question? I'm committed to supporting community-led housing in London. In 2019, I launched the Community Housing Fund, the first of its kind in the country, with the objective of increasing the number of homes delivered by the community-led sector and provided housing that is affordable at local income levels. Through this pioneering fund, we've supported a number of fantastic and innovative community-led schemes. These include Rural Urban Synthesis Society's Church Grove Self-Build scheme in Ladywell, the UK's first LGBTQ+ affirming retirement community Tonic at Bankhouse in Vauxhall, and London CLT's Brasted Glow scheme in Sydenham. The Cable Street Community Land Trust project, led by London CLT, proposes to deliver 41 units at discount market sale. I fully recognise the value of this project to the community, which is why I'm determined to continue to work to help enable it. GLA and TfL officers have worked closely with London CLT on this scheme over several years. My Deputy Mayor for Housing and Residential Development, Tom Copley, and senior officers have met London CLT numerous times to work through the challenges of the scheme and identify options for support. This includes the GLA committing £1.2 million in community housing fund revenue funding 2 years ago to support the scheme towards a full plan application. Additionally, the GLA has extended the Community Housing Fund deadline twice, and it now runs until September 26, giving additional time for schemes including Cable Street Community Land Trust to progress. Unfortunately, the scheme is a challenging one and has hit barriers to delivery, with many of the issues not in London CLT's gift to resolve. For example, development on the site could have important implications for how the DLI is serviced. To overcome these challenges, TfL has been hosting meetings and site visits with London CLT to work through the implications of their proposed design and seek to resolve issues around the use of the land. As a consequence, given the scheme is unlikely to start by September 2026, the GLA team has suggested options for making it eligible for future funding through the London Social and Affordable Homes Programme. No other scheme of the size of Cable Street Community Land Trust project has received this scale of attention and support from a Deputy Mayor, the GLA or TfL officers. Chair, we'll continue to do everything we can to overcome the challenges and facilitate delivery of these new homes.
Thank you. Given the bureaucracy and delays caused by TfL, how are you going to expedite the release of land for the Cable Street CLT and ensure appropriate funding is available without changing the housing model, especially considering this Assembly called on you to provide funds to safeguard the building of these CLT homes in January 2026?
Well, Chair, it's not accurate to say that the delays been caused by TfL. I've got a timeline of engagement from 2018. I don't want to attribute blame, but a number of the delays have been caused by requests from London CLT to pause work and capacity pressures they've got. I'm not criticising them. It's just unfair to criticise other organisations in terms of attribution for the delay. One of the reasons why the Deputy Mayor spent so much time on this is because we understand the challenges when it comes to community-led housing, and that's one of the reasons why I mentioned in my answer. I'm keen for Tom to see if it's possible to, in the new funding we've got going forward, for us to allocate the new funding, which has different criteria, to London CLT, because we understand the importance of community-led housing.
Mr. Mayor, the pot of funding you referred to earlier seems to indicate that they would have to change their homes. They would have to provide shared ownership. Can you undertake that if they have to use this other fund, that they won't have to provide shared ownership and can keep true to the CLT model?
Well, the pot of money that we're looking into giving to the CLT has conditions from the government in terms of it not being for market sale. The CLT project that's been worked on for a number of years by the GLA, TfL and others is for market sales. And so there's the MLG conditions for the funding. It's us trying to be innovative to find funding sources for
Mr.
the
Mayor,
CLT.
I've got limited time, but basically the frustrations amongst these people who've put many years of work into ensuring that the CLT goes ahead is palpable. It may be resolved. They've had meetings with TfL to no avail. They've had meetings with the Deputy Mayor. Will you meet with them?
This has been going on since 2018. I'll make sure the right people meet with them. And if the member wants to...
They talk to the right people.
Well,
perhaps they should talk to you.
Well, perhaps there shouldn't have been the delays caused by this project over the number of years. A disproportionate amount of time has been spent by the GLA, TfL and my Deputy Mayor for the very good reason.
So you will not meet with them. Is this what you're saying?
No.
You will not meet with them?
We will continue to support the CLT as we've been
my time
doing.
is almost up, Mr. Mayor.
Well, no, there's plenty of time. There's 10
We've
minutes.
established...
There's 10 minutes.
We've
You
established...
either care about them or you don't.
You've
There's 10 minutes.
established
There's
you
10
will
minutes.
not meet with them.
Well,
is that correct?
Well, I'm happy over the next 10 minutes to explain the work we've done and the work we're going to carry on.
Are you going to meet with
doing.
them?
So,
Are you going to meet with them? It's a simple binary question, Mr. Mayor, which I know will throw you into a tears sometimes. Will you meet with them?
Well, the process of engagement began in 2018.
Well, I
when
think
the Cambridge Street site was
I
offered
think we
to
can determine that you will not
CLT.
meet with them.
The
Anyway, we'll
Deputy Mayor
bring
has
an
met
end
with
to
them
that
on many
one.
occasions.
We'll go
Telephone
on to the
program with
next
them.
question, which is
Can I just check? Were you chairing your own question?
Yeah, pretty much.
Chair, I'll ask you to reflect on that. Not now, Chair, not now. Honestly, when the meeting's finished, just reflect on that and how it looks. Don't respond now, Chair. Just reflect, please.
I'm not taking advice on how we look from you, Mr. Mayor.
Chair, that's disappointing. Chair, that's disappointing.
Could move on to...
Because, Chair, that is disappointing because you're supposed to be an impartial
Move
Chair.
on to the next question, and I'm trying to get through to other members' questions because it's, curiously enough, it's not all about me. If we can move to the next question, please. Assembly Member Polanski to ask a question about investment to respond to a warming London.
Thank you for your question. I've long been clear. A third runway at Heathrow is the wrong decision and runs counter to my efforts to tackle the climate emergency. It also risks worsening London's air quality and Londoners' health. In May, London has experienced a record-breaking heatwave. Temperature records were broken again in June, and halfway through July, we're currently in another heatwave, the third this year. This shows we must urgently adapt our city to increasing temperatures while also taking the bold action needed to tackle climate change. We know increased sustained heat is already causing premature deaths, infrastructure disruption and massive economic losses, with the 2022 heat waves costing London an estimated £1.5 billion alone. That's why last month I launched Heat Ready London, my call to action for collectively responding to these risks. It focuses on 6 critical sectors: the built environment, health and care, infrastructure, green space and nature, emergency response and the economy. But we're not starting from scratch. Since I became mayor, we've supported London's Cool Spaces networks, helping Londoners rest and cool down during the hot weather. Alongside improved access to drinking water, there are now over 4,000 free water refill points and 130 additional water fountains across London. Since 2016, we've also funded the planting of more than 640,000 trees, created 85 hectares of publicly accessible woodland, and supported the creation of improvement of 900 hectares of green space, including through the £4.7 million Trees for London programme. Our £12 million Green Roots Fund is also invested in greener, healthier and more climate-resilient neighbourhoods, and I recently announced a further £1.1 million for targeted tree planting in areas with low tree cover and high heat risk. Through TfL, we're investing in cooler transport, including through 192 air-conditioned tube trains operating across around 40% of the network, and new air-conditioned Piccadilly Line trains from late 2026. The Elizabeth Line and London Overground are all air-conditioned, and all new DLR trains will have their air conditioning when in service. I also launched Warmer Homes London in 2025, as well as retrofitting homes to keep them warmer in winter. This can also help London's homes be cooler in the summer. Investing in heat resilience is essential, but the challenge is not just about identifying the right investment, it's about delivering them faster and at greater scale.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the work you're doing. The TUC have been calling for a long time for a maximum workplace temperature, and it was good to see that you've supported this. I think I read it in The Guardian yesterday. My colleague in Parliament, Hannah Spencer, has put forward a private member's bill. Will you encourage MPs and government to find time for this bill or to make sure that this is on the agenda somehow?
Well, can I welcome the fact that this the new MPs brought the newish MP has brought forward the private members. But it's important because our city and country is changing. And so I accept that there are actually good reasons why, yes, there is a minimum temperature below which workplaces shouldn't go. And there's been some flexibility for employers around the maximum. Things have changed. And we discussed shortly with Senator Russell, 2,700 premature deaths in just 2 months. And so, listen, I'm all in favour of cross-party work on this issue. This is beyond party politics.
Well, thanks for your support for the bill. That's appreciated. Something I'm hearing lots about is parents who are concerned, particularly around newborn babies in flats when it's getting hotter and hotter. The guidance of the advice is that a newborn baby in a bedroom should be between 16 and 20 degrees, but we also know lots of Londoners are living in homes that are 30 degrees and beyond. Now, you introduced your heat plan, but the Climate Change Committee actually talks about always making sure that vulnerable people have one room at least that can be kept cool. Have you looked at this risk, and how do you think it should be tackled?
Yeah, thanks for the question again, which I really care about. One of the reasons why I introduced the cool spaces across London is a recognition that particularly poorer Londoners simply haven't got a cool space in their home, which in itself is an indictment, for a city as great as London. And so we're trying to create more cool spaces. It may simply not be the case there are any rooms in a number of homes that are cool enough for a baby or a vulnerable older person. So I'd encourage people to go to a cool space, particularly during the course of a day. One of the reasons why the new draft London plan has a lot of attention to this area is because we've got to make sure, yes, there's a big job in retrofitting those homes, but no new home should be the sort of home that he's talking about. By the way, it's not just babies and older people. Many of us who may have respiratory issues could be vulnerable to excessive heat, and the ozone's an additional complication.
Thank you. On Heathrow, you may have already answered this, so I'm just being extensive to make sure it's clear. I heard strongly your opposition towards it. There has been a plan, I think it's called the Aurora Plan, from a hotel tycoon about having a shorter third runway. I just want to check that you'd oppose and encourage MPs, indeed future Prime Ministers, to oppose that plan as well.
The phrase I use is I want a better Heathrow, not a bigger one.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Assembly Member Turrell.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, I think it is now, Mr. Mayor. Just picking up the point there around the heat plan, the heat-ready London strategy. In the strategy, you outline plans to reduce the urban heat island, and I note that the plan includes a drive towards more green roofs. And while green roofs do have better drainage, mental health benefits, and benefits to biodiversity, for existing buildings, white roofs, or cool roofs as they're sometimes called, can reflect the heat and help cool the building and the surrounding area. Can I ask what plans what measures the plan includes for increasing the number of cool roofs across London?
Yes, you raise an important point. We've been speaking to colleagues across the globe. Phoenix is a good example of a really hot city that does what the member is suggesting. One of the things we're looking for during the consultation process, more than 13 weeks, is people to come forward with those sort of innovative ideas that have already been done. And the joy of the idea he suggested, it's already been done. So although it's new to London, it's not new to science. And so I'm hoping, Chair, that we've got not just something about Turrell, but others coming forward during those 13 weeks with suggestions for improving the plan so it's fit for most of the 21st century.
Thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Mayor. Do you have plans currently to use the land owned by the GLA estate in areas like TfL to increase the number of cool roofs?
Yeah, the TfL are really keen to provide leadership here. More difficult with some of the Met Police estate because a lot of it is really tied and some of it is leasehold. LFB themselves are consolidating their footprint as well. What we don't want to do is do just this piece of work by itself. So when a piece of real estate is being refurbished or redone, that's an opportunity to use as an opportunity for innovative schemes like this.
Thank you. And I was in Italy last week, and while coming back, I spotted that they paint their train tracks white to disruption with things like the metal expanding and causing disruption on the trains, as we sometimes see it extended. Is this something you would be looking to do?
I've not heard of that. Can I take that away and speak to the Commissioner? Because there have been days where I've been getting daily reports on our tracks, and it'd be nice to respond with, have you thought of this? So let me take that away, and I can make it my team to ring the member and get the example, because the joke in the team and the TfL is whenever any of us goes away, we come back with ideas from other cities and stuff. So I've not heard of that one, but let me take that away.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. Being a transport nerd, I made sure to take a photo when I saw it, and to Google to make sure I'd understood why they were painting it correctly. On the subject of cooling our transport network, a number of the metro trains in particular don't have air conditioning. I appreciate they're not within your direct remit. But South Eastern are currently producing a business case to expand the number of networker carriages that they have, which would have more air conditioning and would be more accessible carriages for commuters across both Bexley, Bromley and South East London. So will you back Louis French MP, councillors David Leaf and Cameron Smith from Bexley Council in calling for the government to approve the South Eastern business case so they can get on and purchase these well-needed carriages?
Yeah, it sounds like a sensible idea. I make this gentle point without knowing the details, is in the south of the country it's just hotter than other parts of the country. And I say in a respectful way to members in Parliament, other parts of the country who may say this is nonsense. It's really hot down here, and it means it's really difficult. You get to work and you're fatigued already for those that go to the office. So it sounds like a sensible idea, and I'm more than happy to help lobby the relevant train operating company.
Thank you. And we now move on to the next question on a similar note. It's from Assembly Member Mahfouz about extreme heat in London.
Can I remember for his question? Extreme heat is no longer a distant threat for Londoners. It is happening right now, and it's already affecting our communities, our public services and our economy. Climate change deniers or delayers simply cannot ignore it. In response, I launched Heat Ready London, a call to action dedicated to helping our city adapt to rising temperatures and more frequent heat waves. Prolonged periods of high temperatures can be dangerous because they put sustained pressure on people's health and our essential services. We saw that very clearly during June's record-breaking heat wave when the London Ambulance Service had its busiest week ever, surpassing even the COVID-19 pandemic periods. Based on research from Imperial College and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, the Met Office said this week that more than 2,700 people are thought to have died from heat-related causes during May and June in England and Wales this year alone. Heat Ready London sets out a clear framework for how we protect Londoners and make our city more resilient. It moves away from treating high temperatures as isolated summer emergencies towards a proactive approach that embeds heat resilience into the way London operates. Now, I know there are some on the Assembly who oppose action on climate change, but a central aim of my administration is to protect those most at risk, including older Londoners, young children and people with existing health conditions. It focuses on the areas where action is most urgently needed, reducing overheating in homes, increasing shade and greening, and strengthening the resilience of essential services. Heat Ready London builds and work already happening across our city, but it's not something we can deliver alone from City Hall. The levers sit across national government, London's boroughs, the NHS, infrastructure providers, businesses, developers and community organisations. But by acting together now, we can protect lives and build a safer, greener and more resilient London for generations to come.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and absolutely welcome the measures that you're taking, clearly setting out there why this climate crisis has become a critical crisis for so many Londoners. You've taken a couple of key measures recently in partnership with local authorities and others. One of those is around insulation. Of course, we know that insulation of homes, retrospective insulation, means that not only are those homes warmer during the winter, but also cooler during the summer, which is desperately needed. You've got Warmer Homes London, which is starting to deliver on that. You've also recently launched the map, which shows the cool zones across London, which I think the Elizabeth line that we all love is actually on there as one location that people would love to just almost sit on the trains all day. But on a very serious point, it's the relief that people are desperately needing during these heat waves. How are you looking to make sure that these impact in terms of reducing the number of fatalities and across London?
I think it's a really good question, and the timing couldn't be better, right? So can I just underscore the point he made, which people may find sort of counterintuitive. With the right ventilation, by insulating your home, you keep heat in during the winter, but you keep heat out during the summer. So investing in good insulation and ventilation really does help with your bills, but also in terms of how how bearable your home is inside. And that's one of the reasons why when Member Polanski was raising the issue of those with babies, sometimes they live in homes that aren't insulated properly and don't have the right ventilation, and so they're really struggling because they can't afford to turn the fan on because they can't afford the bills. It's a real problem for us, and that's why these cool spaces he talks about are so important in terms of they've been cool spaces you can go to if you can't stay at home, and we've got to think more about as a society what we do, and just to underscore the reasons why we're thinking about other things we can do, and that's why some of Tyrell's idea about what's happening in Italy and so forth is really interesting. Is climate change, man-made climate change, has added 3 to 4 degrees on top of our maximum temperatures. That is a game changer in terms of the impact it has on us. Heat waves are becoming more frequent and more extreme, and so we've got to respond. So the things we're doing as City Hall, things we're doing, and I'm really pleased to give credit to councils. They've been, by and large, very good. The private sector, the government and others to come together, and what we published a couple of weeks ago is a call to action. We've all got a role to play, public transport, the NHS and so forth, and I'm looking for innovative schemes that can, in the short term, make a difference, but over the long term, make our city resilient by adapting to what is the new norm, heat waves in summer.
Thank you. And just super quickly, we've got heat pump installations across the UK have a down on where they were in 2024. How can you work with the government to make sure that we get those to where we need to be?
So there's been a change in criteria. So I've got the details here, but basically it's the way air heat pumps are classified in terms of the grant allocation. So we try to work with the government to resolve that. We think that will be resolved later on this year. But even with the support of a grant, they're very expensive. And so I understand why many of us haven't made the transition and stuff. And so we're looking to either the price coming down because big orders, economies of scale, but also I think for the medium to long term, we will need government support to make that transition because of the reasons I've said.
Thank you very much.
Assembly Member Polanski, please.
Thank you, Mayor. We've just had a lengthy exchange about the climate crisis. The Rosebank consultation opens today, and I believe Kemi Badenoch's gone to Scotland probably to lobby on behalf of the fossil fuel industry. Will you be talking to Andy Burnham both privately and publicly to say we need to leave fossil fuels in the ground?
I'm very careful about answering this question. I'll tell you why. There has just been a court case in relation to the decision made by the previous government, which led to this government having to reconsider it. I wouldn't want anything I say in response to MPTs to be considered as inappropriate lobbying about a quasi-judicial matter, but he will know my views in terms of new licences going forward. But it's really important that the Secretary of State, not the Prime Minister, by the way, decides the new licence. And that's a distinction that the court case made, I think.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. The next question has been withdrawn, so we now move on to Assembly Member Ahmad asking about policing and technology.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for your patience. It's been a long morning. Technology has an important role to play in helping the police keep Londoners safe. In my Policing Crime Plan 25-29, I recognise the Met's potential to innovate its use of data and technology such as facial recognition and artificial intelligence, AI, to enhance productivity, tackle crime and identify wanted persons whilst ensuring policing remains transparent and retains public trust. With record investment from City Hall, the Met is already making progress in this area, including trialling the use of AI-enabled video analytics to process CCTV evidence more quickly and efficiently, trialling the expanded use of drones to support incident response, continuing and expanding the further sites for the use of live facial recognition. Since 2024, live facial recognition has contributed to over 2,000 arrests, including registered sex offenders, using technology which allows retailers and shop staff to report shoplifting incidents remotely and send evidence such as CCTV footage in real time. This has already shown positive results in parts of London. However, as these technologies evolve, robust oversight and ethical scrutiny remains essential. And that's why we'll continue to utilise the independent London Policing Ethics Panel that I established, which advises MOPAC and the Met on the ethical use of emerging technologies. The panel is currently completing a review of AI adoption within the Met and has already supported the Met with its use of live facial recognition.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I think it's you that should be thanked for the patience that you have to portray sometimes to put up with some of the nonsense that we hear in this chamber. Mr Mayor, you are so correct around the use and the positive use of live facial recognition technology. In my constituency, in areas such as Peckham and Brixton, we've seen absolutely positive results by using on a regular basis now live facial recognition technology. And certainly in Denmark Hill there was an incident last year where the technology had picked up somebody who was on the sex offenders register for child abuse, who was at the station with a 6-year-old child and he had access to that child because he'd befriended the mother. And he was stopped because of LFR. There will be a rollout in the West End, we've heard. Could you tell us what and how that's been done and the impact that you are expecting?
Can I say can I thank the member for her question and her comments? For the last 200 years, the Met Police Service has evolved and found new ways to keep the peace and to keep us safe, from the advent of the fingerprint to the police car, to CCTVs, and I could go on. It's important, though, at each stage that there's a proportionate response to this new innovation, that the right checks and balances and so forth. And live facial recognition is and can be a real game changer, but it's important the public is reassured it's being used properly. And that's why it's important for us to provide that reassurance, and as a consequence, Londoners are confident in the police using it. That's really important. And so in addition to the individual examples she gives of success, as I said, over 2,000 arrests leading to charge, prosecutions, convictions, we know it deters as well. And so the Met Police are working really closely with the Oxford Street Development Corporation about how when we pedestrianise that street, how we use LFR in a sensible way, using the opportunity of new CCTV to use LFR. And I think it's right and proper we should let the public know LFR is being used. The Met Police is very good at testing on individual sites before rolling out. What we don't do is do a big bang and it be a disaster. And so I'm confident that we will have a good rollout in the West End. And by the way, it goes to one of the issues that Londoners care about and tourists care about, which is the consequences of high volume crime, whether it's your bag being snatched, your watch being stolen, your mobile phone being taken. We've got to address that. And so we're addressing that with the drones, the fast e-bikes, bigger town centre teams, but also technology like LFR.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and you are absolutely right on the issue of the safeguards and making sure that we bring Londoners with us in the use of this technology through reassurance, having the rail guards in place. As you will know, the Home Office published a consultation document recently, earlier this year. Could you confirm that in terms of trying to put together a legal framework that that your office did respond to that consultation document?
Yeah, there's been some frustration at the lack of pace from central government to the innovation we want to do in London. I'm not criticising individuals, but we are ahead of the curve, and so this framework will help, because one of the things that police crave for is certainty. They want to know what and so the sooner this is able to happen, the better for everyone.
Thank you. And you may be aware that next week I am hosting a conference on AI and effective policing in London, which I hope and fully intend to ensure that we get some really good answers and look at some of the issues that you've already raised. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Assembly Member... Oh, should I do that now? Assembly Member Hall, sorry.
That's all right, Chairman. Chairman, I'd like to be a little bit helpful to start with. And I'd just like to remind the Labour members here that we're a scrutiny body. That means that we ask difficult questions of the Mayor to get him to answer questions. Now, obviously, you've had a problem today because he wouldn't answer your question, Chairman. But just so you remember, handing him easy, oh, tell us how great you are today, Mr. Mayor, isn't actually what we're here for. So, Mr. Mayor, let me ask you a simple question. Do you approve of live facial recognition?
Chair, I'm the only Police and Crime Commissioner who's brought this in, so I'm very much in favour of the use of NFR done proportionally, and I've worked with the Commissioner to get NFR going across our city in the appropriate places.
Excellent. So we can find that we do agree on some things, Mr. Mayor. I'm a massive supporter of live facial recognition, as you well know. So tell me, I believe the Commissioner said that he was announcing expansion of the live facial recognition, which I was thrilled to bits about. So can you tell me, will this include having live facial recognition at some of these dreadful hate marches that we all keep seeing in London? Would it include at the Notting Hill Carnival, where there's quite a bit of crime going on? Will we have live facial recognition in those places?
So, Chair, everyone will know the police, because it's an operational matter, will set out where they're used, in particular at LFR, but we're quite clear. Tested static cameras mounted for deployments where officers are present and engaged with the public is very important. They'll be rolled out in central London with cameras moved between high crime hotspots with a longer-term ambition to expand the rollout across London. And that's the plan. What the police will do, because it's an operational matter, will as and when they're doing particular LFR deployments, whether they're permanent or temporary, set out where they are. Obviously, being appropriate for me as the politician and layperson to do so for reasons you'll appreciate.
I was referring to high crimes hotspots when I asked you about those two particular areas. You mentioned drones earlier. Would you approve of drones going over these areas of these dreadful hate marches in London, or indeed the Notting Hill Carnival? Would you approve of drones watching what's going on?
Part of the additional investment this year, the £4.5 million in terms of a command cell, was for the purchase of drones and also e-bikes. I've seen the difference drones make. The technology is amazing. What happens is, rather than the police having to send out rapidly vehicles, which by the time they get there, it's too late, or helicopters, which can be quite expensive, drones can be easily deployed from the roofs of a couple of police stations. And so my investment is supporting those. I'm in favour of them being used. Again, it's an operational matter in terms of where the police are using them. And the police will also sometimes use them covertly, for reasons that are obvious, and sometimes overtly.
Yep, and I approve of all of those. So going back, do you think that we'll be seeing far more tech being used on these particular areas where there is high crime, and we do need to really back up the fact that we're losing so many police officers while you're in charge, while you're the Police and Crime Commissioner? I think we'll end up with less at the end of the year than you started with, which isn't a good thing. So will we be using more and more AI in this respect?
Well, Chair, the questions on technology in relation to will we be using them, it's only possible because of record investment from City Hall. Had we taken the views of some on the Assembly over the last 11 years, the police would have £1.26 billion to invest in tasers, in drones, in live facial recognition.
All of which I approve, you'll be pleased to hear. All of which I approve. What I don't approve of is the fact that we're losing so many police officers while you are in charge. We've got an ever-expanding population in London, and yet we have less and less police officers. You heard from my colleague earlier about Soho and about the issues around policing around there. And half the problem is they do not have enough police officers. We heard yesterday from a Deputy Assistant Commissioner around trying to look into these grooming gang cases. They haven't really got enough officers or the funding to look through the back cases of these police officers, beg your pardon, back cases of these grooming gangs. We need more police officers. You're the Police and Crime Commissioner. Can you tell us when we can have more police officers, please?
And I'm afraid that comes at a very awkward time.
Oh, that's okay. He wouldn't
City
have
Hall
answered anyway,
Conservatives
Chairman.
are
He
now
wouldn't have
out
answered anyway.
of, time. Will the Assembly agree to suspend Standing Order 2.9b in order to allow the remaining business on the agenda to be completed? Thank you. And who's next on the... Who's next? Oh, Assembly Member Clark now on Capital Cities grant for the London Fire Brigade. Thank you.
Can I thank the member for her question? London is a global city, home to over 9 million residents, 900 transport hubs, 300 hospitals, 20,000 listed buildings, more than 500 high-risk sites, as well as around 65% of England's high-risk buildings, high-rise buildings. Operating in this context, the London Fire Brigade, the LFB, responds to a range of incidents not faced by any other fire and rescue service in the country, including a growing number relating to civil defence and in supporting the Met Police Service and other partners in protecting the public. The LFB has now completed the introduction of a marauding terrorist attack capability across all frontline appliances. Firefighters also now trained in and equipped with ballistic PPE to respond to terrorist incidents. The LFB has also introduced a high-threat response team, which delivers capability to defend against the evolving threat posed by terrorism and hostile state activity. Significant additional costs have been incurred since the conflict in the Middle East escalated earlier this year. Several incidents and threats of arson have also resulted in the need to increase specialist national interagency liaison officer cover across London. In addition, regular national and international sporting events and public demonstrations have resource implications that are specific to London. It's therefore vital that the LFB is properly funded to respond to these changing risks and the demands of protecting the capital. That's why I provided £8.9 million in additional funding this financial year to help ensure London's firefighters are ready to face these additional challenges. That's why I'll continue to work with the LFB and colleagues in government to ensure they have the resources it needs to keep Londoners safe.
Can I thank you for your answer? And I think I just want to take this opportunity to really welcome the, I know this is to do with policing, but the £250 million investment in protecting our Jewish communities, and specifically across England and Wales. It's a fund that should absolutely not be necessary, but I think the recent months have showed us exactly why it is necessary. That's going to amount to more than 500 additional officers, 300 of those in London, many of which will be in my constituency. And I know you've lobbied for that. I know I've lobbied for that. Assemblymember Hirani next to me has lobbied for that, as well as our members of parliament. And I think that sort of investment in our capital city does highlight exactly what you're saying, that our capital city has specific threats because it is our capital. We have the heritage buildings that are national treasures, but we have, unfortunately, we have terrorist targets. We have extreme heat emergencies. So when it comes to funding that extra uplift for the police, I think also, I know you've invested that 8.9 million. What more can we do so that I think there's probably some sort of cross-pollination work between the LFB and the Met in terms of keeping our city safe, which they do. But I think some of that specialist knowledge, some of that specialist preparedness, I think can be done together. But what more could we do to ensure that the new government is aware of the needs of the London Fire Brigade?
I think she's articulated some of the challenges we face being the greatest city in the world. There's a cost that comes with that because that means there's a bullseye target on us because our progressiveness, our liberalism, our diversity, and us being great. And that requires investment. And it is much to my frustration that we've not had the resources we need to keep our city as safe as it can be. But she's right to remind me, I'll make sure I remind the government, the phrase she used, cross-pollination. It's not just a policing issue with NIC, National International Capital Cities Grant, has an impact on the fire service, an impact on the ambulance service as well. And so let me take away how we can make a better case, an even better case, to the new Prime Minister, the new government, about the importance of investing in London. And the more safe our city is, by the way, the more productive we're going to be, which means the more we'll be able to contribute towards the national coffers. So it's a virtuous circle, I hope.
And just if I may, it's a bit of a flourish, if I may, Chair, but just to thank the London Fire Brigade for really stepping up this summer, as we would all expect. But it's not just been the heat emergencies; it's been arson attacks, it's been heat related incidents where they've been called out along with other emergency services, and I think their work has been exemplary this summer. So thank you.
Chair, if I may, we began the question time with Senator Best rightly raising the issue of Walthamstow, the fire that's affected the Weaver line. A good example, the LFB just been brilliant in terms of their response. They're meeting daily with residents. So Member Clark's mentioned the work they're doing around the community in North West London, the arson attacks on the Jewish community. We've had talk of wildfires and so forth. And so can I also just echo my thanks to the LFB, who've shown why they're the best fire service in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next question comes from Assembly Member Prince, and it concerns Broadmead Bridge.
Thank you, Chair. I understand the challenge London's boroughs have faced with previous anti-London governments being unable to apply for national funding programmes because of their policies, such as local large majors or major road network funding. However, thanks to lobbying from the GLA, London Councils and TfL, the situation has improved significantly. And earlier this year, the highways maintenance formula was changed by this government, meaning the funding allocation London gets is now in line with other parts of the country. I am supporting TfL and London's boroughs to meet the challenge of funding London's roads. However, the backlog in critical renewals is now so significant that it's essential that London boroughs and TfL access funding such as these structures fund. I know that Broadmead Road Church plays a vital role in the transport infrastructure of Redbridge and North East London. It connects the north and south of Woodford and provides an essential route for those travelling between Essex and London. The decision to close Broadmead Bridge was taken in July 2023 following an inspection which identified serious structural defects. This closure affects approximately 15,000 vehicle journeys every day and has had a significant impact on local connectivity, bus operations, emergency response routes and wider transport movements across the area. The bridge also carries critical utilities, meaning its long-term future has implications that extend beyond transport. The bridge is also located above the Central Line, meaning that its future has direct implications for London Underground operations. Rebuilding the bridge would restore an important local connection, reduce pressure on alternative routes, and help support the efficient operation of transport infrastructure across the area. Since the bridge was closed, TfL has worked closely with Redbridge Council to make the case for funding to renew this vital asset and also to reroute bus services to keep people moving while the bridge is closed to vehicle traffic. I know that Councillor Cam Rye, leader of Redbridge Council, and Andy Law, the TfL Commissioner, have been in touch very recently on this matter, and TfL has committed to writing to the DfT to highlight its support for the Redbridge Council Structures Fund bid. I understand, Chair, that Broadmead Bridge sits alongside submissions from other boroughs in TfL, including Albert Bridge, Richmond Bridge, Hammersmith Bridge, Vauxhall Bridge and Croydon Flyover, among other structures which have been proposed to London Bridge Engineering Group and TfL for review and endorsement.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With regards to the Structures Funds application by Redbridge, the leader, Cam Rye, has written to me and asked me to write in support. I've absolutely agreed to do that. I know you've indicated that TfL may be doing that, but will you yourself, Mr Mayor, also write in support? And also, because of your connections, especially now, would you also personally lobby the Department of Transport on behalf of Redbridge Council?
Chair, they're both very reasonable requests. I'm more than happy to do both.
Thank you, that's very kind. Just very quickly, I have been trying to get the Deputy Mayor to come and visit the bridge, but more importantly, the school that is next door, which has been really affected by the change in some bus routes, but also the rerouting which TfL have done. Would you be kind enough just to give him a little nudge for me, Mr Mayor?
Chair, I'm sure it's nothing personal, just a direct pressure all around. I promise to chase that up as well with the Deputy Mayor, who's assiduous in these sorts of things, and we'll obviously make sure we come.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Assembly Member Roberts, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good morning. Oh, good afternoon now, is it? No, it's afternoon now. All of the virtues that you extolled about Broadmead Bridge could equally be applied to Hammersmith Bridge. One of the difficulties which is faced with Hammersmith Bridge is the Structures Fund has a cut-off of 2030. Which prevents full restoration of the bridge happening. All of the work needs to be completed, and that simply cannot happen with Hammersmith Bridge. Given that we have an incoming Prime Minister who we are given to understands infrastructure and the need for infrastructure investment, will you commit to writing to the new Secretary of State, should there be one, asking that the time limit be extended so that a full restoration bid for Hammersmith Bridge can be submitted?
I'm more than happy to look again at how we lobby the government. I think the challenge with Hammersmith Bridge is also the cost compared to, by the way, I know how important it is. It's a vital artery, that part of London. And so with a finite sum of a structures fund that's got to be spread around the country, I just got to be realistic about whether all of that being taken up by one bridge would be a decision the government would take. But I will again lobby the government about the importance of that bridge being open not just to walking and cycling, but to vehicular access as well.
Thank you. And will you similarly be writing in support of the Hammersmith and Fulham bid?
Yeah, Chair, I mean, it's an opportunity for me to say that because I've seen the list and, again, of the course of prepping for this, I'm more than happy to, again, add my personal name to the need for these vital pieces of infrastructure, which through no fault of the councils, by the way, they were given to them with legacies of neglect and stuff. I'll do so.
Thank you. If we are successful in getting an extension of the timescale, would you be willing to submit a bid from TfL as the Strategic Transport Network for London for the full amount of restoration and therefore take control of the bridge yourself?
We'd be more than happy to take over the bridge with the support of the council that owns it and with the monies required to bring it up to the standard we would like. It's a serious point because obviously the same goes with, for example, the franchises of train operating lines. We don't want to take over the liabilities when somebody else should have done that.
Thank you. And just one final question on Hammersmith Bridge. It was raised at the last Cabinet meeting of Hammersmith and Fulham that there were still monies outstanding from TfL for the £54 million which of repairs, which was supposed to be based on a third from your previous Deputy Mayor for Transport and now Secretary of State for the moment for Transport. Is that money still outstanding? Have TfL paid their bill?
I couldn't tell you, Chair, about relation to monies outstanding, but I'd be surprised if there's monies outstanding from TfL to any individual council. But I'm sure it's been looked into.
Would you look into it and give me a note? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I should say that if I'd have been more attentive, I would have stopped you asking that question because I think that the fact that it's got the word bridge in is a bit thin, really. But as I said, if I'd been more attentive, the Mayor didn't seem discontent to answer it, so I let it go. Yeah, and I should have paid more attention in future. Can we now move on to Assembly Member Hamdash's question, reversing the emergency house building measures?
Can I thank the member for his patience and his question as well? I'm committed to delivering the homes Londoners so desperately need, including delivering affordable housing of different types. We have built more council homes in London than since the 1970s and more genuinely affordable homes than at any time since the GLA was established. That's why in 2023, council housing starts in London would double the rest of the country combined. The emergency house building measures respond to the perfect storm facing house building due to a combination of high interest rates, the rising cost of construction materials, the legacy of the pandemic, a shortage of skilled workers and the lasting impact of Brexit. All of this means we're now in the midst of an incredibly difficult period for house building, the most difficult since the global financial crash. I'm simply not prepared to stand by while the supply of affordable housing for Londoners dries up, which is why there's a package of temporary measures to help kickstart house building in London. These include a time-limited, fast-track planning route for schemes delivering 20% affordable housing and temporary relief from the Community Infrastructure Levy (CIL). I understand that consultation on the CIL relief will commence soon. My priority is making sure actual homes, especially those that are affordable, are delivered for Londoners. I'm clear that when it comes to affordable homes, 20% of a scheme being delivered is better than an agreement on paper that doesn't lead to new homes being built. This is a short-term package in response to exceptional circumstances. It's my ambition to increase affordable housing levels again as economic conditions and the house building market improves. It's worth adding that I've also secured £324 million in capital grant funding for the City Hall Developer Investment Fund, which will support house building by unblocking stalled sites that can deliver additional homes in the near term. And I've also secured additional planning powers, which will allow me to call in developments of between 50 and 149 homes where a borrower is minded to refuse planning permission, and also the flexibility to adopt mayoral development orders. I'll make full use of these planning powers to ensure every opportunity is being taken to deliver the new homes for Londoners. And of course, he's aware the new draft plan published today sets out our vision for unlocking housing delivery and supporting economic growth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So your draft London plan today locks in the emergency house building measures for another 2 years at least, taking your fast-track route from 35% affordable to 20% affordable. Now, that's a target that's much lower than many inner London boroughs, where viability is different, including in the council where I'm a councillor in Islington, where the target is 50%. Now, these measures have drawn opposition from a range of parties, including the Labour Council. Now, are you confident that a blanket 20% rate across the city makes sense? Because I've taken the time to look at a number of planning approvals that are happening across the city that are substantially higher than 50%. Camden, 30%, 51%, 50%, Wandsworth, 49%, Westminster, 29.5%. Is your 20% target cutting off the ambition of many London boroughs?
Well, let's deal with ambition. It's really important. As you started talking about affordable housing, looking at the ambition of Islington Council, a number of schemes they had: Parkhurst Road, 50% genuinely affordable; Holloway Prison, 60% genuinely affordable; Barnbury Estate, 100% affordable; Golden Lane Estate, 100% affordable; Dixon Clark Court, 50% affordable, and I could go on. They're all opposed by the Green councillors. And so I think, you know, it's a bit of, I mean, I hate using the word hypocrisy, but double standards, maybe, or pot kettle black, or he does protesteth too much. I'm quite clear in relation to no other mayor in the history of this city. I know the Tories don't like me mentioning the previous guy, but including Ken Livingstone, no other mayor's built more council homes than I have. No other mayor has built more genuinely affordable homes than I have, but I recognise the perfect storm facing house building across the country. I can't pretend, and I've got the figures for every borough in London over the last few years. It's just dried up. And I tell you this, Chair, let's diarise this time next year how many council homes Islington, where he's now the effective opposition, or the 5 Green councils begin. It's going to be challenging, not because they're bad councils, but the market is really hard. And so what we're trying to do is to, for a short period, and it is a short period, temporary package of measures to help facilitate these homes, because he knows the TA list, he deals with constituents every day. It's heartbreaking, the stories. Getting this house built will mean they can be rehoused sooner rather than later.
I will just correct your notes. The Barnsbury estate was 38%, not 100%, and I opposed it because of the cut in affordable housing. Now,
I mentioned 7. I mentioned 7. He corrects 1.
But he still opposed it.
So, I'm very conscious of the Centre for London's report on affordable housing. And one of their key conclusions was that the model for delivering affordable housing in this city is fundamentally broken. This hope that we will build lots of luxury flats and get enough council housing is fundamentally broken. And I'm worried with your cuts to affordable housing that we're doubling down on a broken model. First of all, do you agree that the cross-subsidy model for delivering affordable housing is broken and needs to be put to the side?
Yeah, yes, it was designed for a time. I went into politics, the previous government and stuff. It's clearly broken, and this is why the questions asked by Councillor Mahfouz and Small Edwards about the importance of diversified housing supply is so important, because the cross-subsidy works on the premise this will be really profitable, and almost like a charity will take some money from the profit for affordable housing. And the reason why I deliberately mentioned the Attlee and Macmillan governments was they didn't rely upon this model. It was recognising the importance of council housing and investing in it. And by the way, a good example of borrowing to invest, it always reaps dividends. House building reaps dividends, not just in terms of people having a good home and can be productive. Think about all the people involved in making these homes as well.
I'm afraid the City Hall Green's now out of time. I'm sorry about that. Did I have an indication? Assembly Member Deval. Sorry, yeah.
Thank you very much. In terms of the emergency measures, do you think there's a missing part of the emergency measures, which is really what you alluded to earlier around some of the additional problems of the lack of skill capacity? And do we need to make representation to government about introducing those skills from outside in temporarily until we've done the homegrown British skills development in terms of that? Because most of the developers that I talk to talk about that there's a real shortage out there. Since the issues of people, since Brexit, really, that people have gone and returned and not stayed here in terms of some of the skill issues?
I mean, there's two issues I'd say in response. One is I think the government should recognise there are different parts of the country have different shortages in various occupations. I don't want to name an area, but in a certain area, they may not want to build new homes or build anything, so they don't need additional builders, whether it's born and raised here or from overseas. In other areas, there is clearly an issue in terms of a lack of skilled construction workers. We're looking into the reasons for these sites stalling. I deliberately mentioned a number of things that are causing the challenges. It isn't just the consequences of Brexit on construction workers. It could be materials, it could be interest rates and so forth. A particular challenge we face, and the member knows this in his previous life as a leader of council, is often in London, the developments are high-rise, 94% are flats. The cost of starting these is incredibly expensive. So if you're a developer, you're borrowing a huge amount of money to start off this development. And the reason why viability matters is you need to be able to say to the lender, I will be able to pay back your loan because I'm confident in revenues being raised. That's more difficult now because your costs have gone up. And that's why this package of measures have been carefully negotiated. But I will be lobbying the government for a more sensible immigration policy. I think it's really important to recognise we've got to control our borders. We've got to make sure those who come here contribute. We've got to do it with common sense and compassion in terms of not cutting our nose to spite our face. And that's one of the areas, construction, where there's been a big problem because of Brexit and the lack of skilled workers we desperately need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Assembly Member Baker and concerns Heathrow surface access.
Can I thank you for a question again? I've been clear in my opposition to a third runway at Heathrow Airport, given the significant impacts it will have on the environment, public health and already constrained transport network. Last month, the government shared the draft Heathrow expansion national policy statement for consultation, which we will respond to. The statement sets out the conditions for any runway development. Heathrow's proposed third runway would increase passenger numbers to 150 million per annum, a 79% increase from 2024. There would also be increased staffing and freight as a consequence. It's vital that the government commits to no increase in highway traffic as a result of any expansion. Without this, there'd be increased congestion, emissions and impacts on the local and regional economy would worsen. To avoid an increase in highway traffic, Heathrow needs improved public transport connectivity and capacity. This would require an increase in the frequency of the Elizabeth line and new signalling and trains on the Piccadilly line. New rail links to Heathrow will also need to be put in place, particularly from the south and west, alongside investment in bus and cycle priority infrastructure. The promoter must set out how these interventions will be funded without drawing on public funds. I remain clear that expansion should not go ahead. If government is minded to commit to this scheme, it's incumbent on it to demonstrate that it doesn't result in serious environmental and economic impacts.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. And you've covered several of the things that I think are really important in this. As you said, the current consultation on the policy statement covering Heathrow expansion does talk about public transport proportions. So currently about 42% of people coming to the airport at Heathrow use public transport. They want it up to 50 to 55%, depending on the numbers of passengers that the airport actually gets up to. Do you think that's high enough? Because with the sheer volume of passengers that will be, we've got to be really careful about a knock-on effect on our public transport network. The Londoners just going about their business, getting to work, as people do every day, and the knock-on effect on the roads. Do you think that's is there still going to be an impact there?
A huge impact. Look, I said in my main answer that the prediction is 150 million additional passengers going, plus staff and freight connections. So what that means is there'll be tens of millions of airport-related road journeys being taken. Just do the maths, it's tens of thousands of additional trips. So if you're going about your business in that part of London, you'll be stuck in traffic. Park for a second, the environmental disbenefits of doing so. And so there needs to be a massive increase in capacity of public transport if this was to go ahead. I don't think the taxpayer should pay for that. I think Heathrow should pay for that.
No, absolutely. And obviously the level of investment that we'd need, both in new rail links and in public transport, the existing public transport network is absolutely crucial. But when we had Heathrow up in front of the Transport Committee last year, they were quite keen to sort of talk about the different ways that they could say, oh, OK, actually, these aren't our, we're only going to pay for the additional journeys, but these aren't actually our additional journeys. And it was very concerning that they were going to find loopholes in whatever comes out of the consultation to eventually not put in the levels that the public transport network and the road system needs. Are you concerned about that, and is that something you're addressing with government?
I'm very concerned about that, and I've made the point quite forcefully to members of the current government about the lack of scrutiny of the proposals from Heathrow Limited. They are saying, depending on which audience there is, no cost to the taxpayer, which means that they will pay for new signalling on the Piccadilly line, they will pay for new trains on the Piccadilly line, they'll pay for upgrades in the Elizabeth line for more frequency, they'll pay for the rerouting of the busiest motorway in the country, and I could go on. And so I think it's really important to properly scrutinise and give due diligence to these proposals. And by the way, that's just the cost element. That's before we get to your point that you began with, Sir Member Baker, about, hold on a sec, even on their numbers, 52, 55%, that means a lot of additional journeys on the motorway and the A roads and that general part of London, and those getting to that part of London. And by the way, that's before we get to the south and west. These are our concerns coming this way. What about those coming the other way? And so, there needs to be proper scrutiny, and we'll be responding to both the Select Committee and the government in terms of the statement.
Thanks very much. And yeah, agree. Devil's going to be in the detail of this, so we need to hold them at Heathrow to account what they're going to cough up, basically, if it goes ahead. Thank you.
Assembly Member Harani, please.
Thank you, Chair. Now, Heathrow is also a major employer in the North West London area, and I've been contacted by people who work at Heathrow who are being impacted by the temporary closures that are on the Piccadilly line to service the new line coming in. Now, obviously, it's more expensive to travel to Heathrow using the Elizabeth line, so can this be reviewed, because the impact on staff is actually quite significant when the Piccadilly line is down to service the new trains coming in, because they are having to go on the Elizabeth line where the fares are higher to the airport for workers.
Chair, the first has been raised with me, but I'm more than happy to take that away because, but for the work's being done, they wouldn't need to take the Elizabeth line. So I'll take the point he's making. Let me take it away, Chair.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Assembly Member Roberts concerning the next Prime Minister.
Thanks. Can I thank the member for his question? After over a decade of successive governments failing to deliver for London, I'm pleased that this government has worked with me to help deliver growth, ease the cost of living crisis and restore public services in London. And I thank Keir Starmer for his support. Andy Burnham is also a friend, and having worked closely with him over the years, including in Cabinet and with him as Mayor of Greater Manchester, I know he'll be able to help us make more progress. I know that he'll succeed in building on the work that's been done by the current Prime Minister and continue to chart a positive course forward for our country. I agree with Andy Burnham that we need good growth in every postcode. He was right to say that in his recent speech that London needs more powers, including over education and housing, because we mustn't forget that Whitehall can often seem as remote to communities in Newham and Lewisham as it can to communities in Newcastle and Leeds. Like me, he knows that getting the world's greatest city firing on all cylinders isn't just good for Londoners and London's businesses, it's good for Britain. London is a huge asset to the UK. It's a gateway to international investment. When our capital succeeds economically, the rest of the country shares in the benefits, and vice versa. Investment in London, I believe, doesn't trickle down to the southeast, it floods up and out, supporting jobs, industry, supply chains, wealth and prosperity, the length and breadth of the UK. And crucially, London makes an annual net contribution to the Treasury of over £40 billion per year, helping to support public services in every corner of our country. And we contribute £4 out of £10 in taxes raised by the government. I'm ready and willing for London to do even more with more devolution.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. As Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham was used to dealing with the Jewish community, the second largest Jewish community in the country. So therefore, he will be fully familiar with the pressures placed on policing and giving support to those communities. Last year, you told us that the Met had asked for £35 million a year over 3 years to fund 300 officers to protect Jewish communities, so a total of £105 million. And this year, we heard that the Met will actually get £86 million, a shortfall of £19 million. Would you commit to lobbying the incoming Prime Minister to ensure that we get the full amount of funding, given his understanding of the policing needs?
Well, can I tell you, Senator Clark referred to this earlier on. Earlier this week, I was really pleased that Keir Starmer confirmed the additional funding. And so, as a consequence of the lobbying, and I want to thank the Commissioner, he and I, and members like Senator Clark and MPs, we were lobbying the current government. And just to give them the good news, you may not have heard it, there's no reason why I would, there's lots going on. There was confirmation of this additional funding. The good news is it's over 3 years. And so that means we can plan for the community hub, the additional officers, and all the things that we think unfortunately, community needs going forward. It's really important.
Yeah. There is still a shortfall of £19 million.
No.
No?
I think, I forget, apology, I think the government announced an additional £250 million. So I think the monies we need for the next 3 years are there without sorry to use this word in a pejorative way, without us abstraction or draining from other parts of
No, of course, absolutely. Similarly, the second largest religious group in the city of Manchester itself is the Muslim communities, and therefore Andy Burnham will be very familiar with dealing with the policing and support for those communities. In the light of the recent arrests regarding the threat against 2 mosques in Sutton, just days after the threat to an Islamic festival in Suffolk, will you be asking the incoming Prime Minister and the Chancellor for additional funding to help keep Muslim communities safe in London?
Yeah, thank you for raising this issue again. And I don't blame you for missing this, but a few weeks ago, the Home Office announced additional funds for all places of worship, including Muslim and Jewish, because of the heightened concerns around security of these places. Just to state the obvious point, there has been a massive increase in the last few years of hate crime against a number of minority communities, so it's really important. Yes, we do what we can to stop at source the hatred, but also provide any additional security that reduces the chance of success of bad actors causing harm.
Thank you. And finally, well, actually, it might not be finally, Andy Burnham was, of course, the Police and Crime Commissioner for the Greater Manchester area, and it appears that we will be getting Shabana Mahmood as the Chancellor of the Exchequer, in spite of your lobbying for Ed Miliband, I'm given to understand. So we have the perfect triangle of a mayor that understands policing in London, a mayor that understands policing in a major capital city, and a former Home Secretary coming in as Chancellor of the Exchequer. So will you commit to going back to ask for the funding that London needs in order to avoid the cuts which the Metropolitan Police Commissioner says are coming down the line?
Yeah, so I'll say the same thing to this incoming Prime Minister as I said to the current one and the previous 5 or 6, I've lost track, that I've had since I've been Mayor. When London succeeds, the rest of the country succeeds and vice versa. And I won't be afraid to lobby for additional funding. I've been thrown out of offices with the current lot for doing that. And my job as the Mayor of London is to be the champion and advocate. Clearly, it's an advantage. This lot don't hate me. It's clearly an advantage. These guys aren't anti-London. It's clearly an advantage. These guys are competent. But that doesn't mean I won't stop being brave as an advocate for our great city.
Okay. And in the last 40 seconds that we have, would you agree with me that it would be a very good move for Andy Burnham in his first week in office to announce that he is no longer pressing forward with the expansion of Heathrow Airport?
I've got a list of great first announcements I'd like Andy Burnham to make. That's up there.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, if I maybe before we completely finish, can I wish everyone a fantastic summer? I know it's been a really busy period. I hope everyone has a chance to rest, everyone has a good holiday, and everyone has a great time with their family and friends and so forth.
Well, thank you very much for that, but a lot of the time we will be scrutinising your London plan over the summer holidays.
If it helps, there's 30.
Yes.
You've got 13 weeks. There's no rush.
You've rather destroyed everyone's trip to the
I do
Costa del
apologise.
Sol, but never mind. Mr. Mayor, you are free to go.
Yeah, Chair.
Can I ask the Assembly to agree the motion which is set out on the agenda in my name, which is that the Assembly notes the answers to the questions asked. You're not going yet. I need to read this out to you. Sorry about that. We now go on to item 6, which is the provision of pensions for the Mayor of London and London Assembly members. Before I put the decision on this item to the Assembly, let me set out for the record that the GLA's monitoring officer has granted dispensation to all Assembly members in relation to decisions before us on elected member pension arrangements. I would also like to explain that the reference to the 2nd of July 2026 in paragraph 4.4 of the agenda report should instead be 16th of July 2026. Can I now ask the Assembly to approve the decision to grant access to the local government pension scheme to GLA members from the 9th of August 2026 and agree the terms of a new determination as set out in Appendix A of the agenda report to authorise the Executive Director of Corporate Resources and Business Improvement and the Executive Director of the Assembly Secretariat to take all necessary administrative actions to establish and facilitate the access and approve the decision to cease contributions to the GLA members' pension scheme on the 7th of May 2028, which will supersede MD 2215. Is that agreed? Agreed. No one against? Thank you. Can I ask the Assembly to agree that in relation to urgent matters, only a general delegation of authority in respect to the Assembly's powers and functions, apart from those that cannot under the Greater London Authority Act 1999 be delegated, be given to me as Chair of the Assembly in consultation with the Chairman of the GLA Oversight Committee, party group leaders and relevant committee chairs from the close of this meeting until the next meeting of the Assembly, which will be the London Assembly plenary meeting on the 10th of September 2026. You fools, all the power I now get. So, and the next scheduled meeting, I have just said, is on the 10th of September 2026. There is no urgent business requiring consideration, so I bring the meeting to a close. Thank you very much.
Lovely jubbly, as they say. Well, there was a few highlights there. Thank you everyone for enduring this long stream, 3 hours 15. I am shattered, to be honest. But there you go. Right, where are we? Please subscribe to Kick. Give us a follow on Kick. That'd be much appreciated. 2 p.m. we go live again with the Police and Crime Committee from yesterday's London Assembly meeting. Okay, so that goes live as a premiere at 2 p.m. You can watch it later on. You can join the chat if you want. Completely up to you guys. Thank you everyone for watching. Drew. Oh, sorry, I'm going through. James, Drew, James, Rona, Roy's gone. Chrissy. Oh, I've got some kip, Drew. Yeah, I'm just getting over the hangover. I've got some bacon in the fridge. Woohoo! Yeah, yeah. I might be around for the Police and Crime Committee because I need to do some timestamps on that to get some shorts out on it. All right. Okay. Can everyone do me a favor? Go and watch some of the shorts that I've done recently, please. Share them out with your friends. That'll just help me out a lot. Give it a like if you like the short. Go and have a look through them, please. That's all I ask, is that you just give them a little watch. It only takes you a minute. There's some good ones out there. That'd be much appreciated and show you a bit of support for me. Or you can even become a channel member from as little as £1.50 or £1.99. Yeah, bacon cures everything. Oh yes. Bacon sandwich a day keeps the away. Cheers, James. Thank you, mate. Right. Thank you, thank you very much, everyone, for your support over the last few months. It's really been fucking brilliant. We've really getting there. Right. And we got a load of subscribers over the last couple of days due to them football streams somehow. That was a laugh last night. I just remember having fun. And vaguely, anyway. Right. Have a great afternoon, Elle. Stay safe. We will catch up with you. Oh, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I might do be at a club in London, but I'm not sure over the weekend. But anyway, have a good one. Take care while we're out. Stay safe.
Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority.
Couldn't resist it. Right. Oh, fucking hell. Logo. Right. Catch you all later. Take care. I'm definitely going this time.